So, 16 minutes past.
Thank you. Right, well, I'm ready to start. We've already started. What's wrong with you all? Let's get on with it. Right.
You've been done over by Mr.
Well, actually, no. I mean, Maria and I were talking because Maria's standing in this evening for Toby. Okay, right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to Scrutiny. 4th of April already. Can you just make sure your phones are off, please, or on silent at least, and I'll quickly do the same. Thank you very much.
Your first time ever?
What, for you? I always make sure my phone's on silent, which is what I'm doing now, and then we'll start. So if you haven't, just please double check them.
It's even funnier when the chairman don't turn his off.
Yeah, it's actually the top too. It happens to all of us, particularly these days. We have multiple electronic devices. So this evening, everybody, we've got a special speaker, Councillor Paul. You'll recognise him because he's been known to come to our meetings before. And for those of you who don't recognise, we also have Claire here as well. We often speak about Claire. Has anybody met Claire?
I'll do that for you, Chairman, if I may.
We'll get to it in a second then, thank you. Welcome to Councillor Wesley as well, and let's get down to business. So, apologies for absence. Now, we have apologies from Councillor Frenchman, which is slightly unfortunate because he has got a paper this evening that he's discussing in his absence. For those of you who were last meeting, remember we rolled it onto this meeting. And we haven't received apologies from Councillor Robertson, but some of us would have seen him at the weekend, and he didn't tell me he was coming, but then he didn't tell me he wasn't coming. Yeah. So I'm not sure what to do with regards to apologies. Actually, he hasn't actually given us any, but he had apologies before. I think we'll probably carry those over in those circumstances. Good, and then we have declarations of members' interests. Do we have any? I expect so. Well, here. And then the fourth item on the agenda, again busy evening this evening, lots to get through, is we have Councillor Colin Paul. Now, we invited... Oh, sorry, you know what I haven't done? I do apologise, that was 7 minutes in the last meeting. You'd think, man, I'd crack this, wouldn't you?
What made you nervous this evening?
Well, I've had just you are here this evening. I'm out of sorts, really. Actually, I could do this at the end, everybody, but the reason I'm probably out of sorts is because this is Wendy's last meeting with us.
What?
Because Wendy has a new role in the council, and will be given a new secretary to look after us, and that'll be announced in due course. But Wendy is off after this one, so I'd like to thank Wendy anyway at this meeting for all the hard work and all the chasing around she does and all the support she gives, and I'll certainly miss her as the support for this committee.
I would echo that as a member of this committee, keeping me informed, Chairman.
Well, and keeping us in good order, actually, like telling me we've got some minutes.
I'm glad you're going as well.
So, anybody any comments on the minutes? They're true and accurate record of the meeting. Obviously, you've all read them and taken them in. If you're happy for me to sign, I'll do so. Thank you. Right, there we go. Thank you, Wendy. You'll be missed. Not least by me. Right, so Councillor Paul, you know, is almost an honorary member anyway. But as a portfolio holder, he can't actually vote or anything, can't hear his role is just because it's an interesting topic. Well, we actually thought we'd formally invite him, and if you remember, we were minded to ask him to speak to us about higher skilled employment in the district. It's often a particular issue, and I think actually, Councillor Pritchard, one of your recent pieces of work, we spoke also about incomes and the type of property, etc., and these kind of issues. Well, we spoke about homeless people and really about being aspiring, and also the education issues. So we've invited Councillor Paul to speak on this topic for no more than 30 minutes. So please jump in if you've got any questions, but don't keep him too long. You know the way he works. So Councillor Paul, over to you, 30 minutes, thank you.
In my individual way, Chairman, trust me. First and foremost, the young lady to my left, a recent acquisition to our team, being Claire Cowland. And Claire has a title which, when it's an acronym, really winds me up. So in future, would people please not use the acronym of CEDO. Claire is Strategic Economic Development Officer and part of our...
Can you go back a second? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Strategic Claire,
Yes.
who I've just introduced. CEDO is what is used in the papers as an acronym, which winds me up because I hate acronyms anyway. Yeah, and her full title being Strategic Economic Development Officer.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
Unlike...
That makes sense to everybody now?
Yeah, it did to me anyway.
Oh, do you really? Well, I did, as you know. Okay.
Right, unlike in the past, and I'm not commenting on my predecessors, but some of the times we've been town-centric, and Claire has broadened that out. And whilst it was taking a long time to get in post, we finally got somebody, and we can widen it out to district. So that's where we are. So introduce Claire Cowland to all of you.
Thank you, welcome along. Good to see you at this meeting. As I said earlier, we've often discussed you, even before you got here, and then subsequently. So,
Right, just a quick start before we go on to death by PowerPoint, is to probably explain some of the things that go on in the portfolio, which is peculiar and probably the opposite to yours, Chairman. Whereas yours is a committee for open working, transparency and being held to account. My portfolio often has commercially sensitive issues and at times extremely commercially sensitive issues, so it is at times very difficult to talk about it. It's also a very busy portfolio. Just very briefly, and it will be brief and I'm watching the clock, ongoing at the moment within the portfolio, and these are just a few, the development sites in the town, sites 1, 3, 5 and 6, the canal, the water space, the extension to the Phoenix Youth Centre, Overstone regeneration and Whedon Barracks regeneration, Angleside Danelaw where we extended, brought them into the town, the Knoll, which is another development site to the south of the town, Heartlands Industrial Estate where we're developing there, New Homes 2, which is on the back of our estate company with bringing new homes to rent into the town, Middlemore Site 7, which is a care facility, Welton Road site, which is another care facility, London Road, Western Avenue, the sports park, and there are matters in and around there that I can't go into. Volvo and Ford. Pleased to say that Volvo have held their faith in Daventry, and we are working with them, as no doubt people know, for their UK Centre of Excellence and Ford training facility. Ford have kept their faith in Daventry. They could have gone to Cologne, but they're actually staying in Daventry for their Centre of Excellence and training. So that's not bad, really. Then we come on to the other part, and with the portfolio it covers direct investment, regeneration, employment, tourism, and one that really doesn't get mentioned too often is education, because we are not the education authority. That falls in the lap of Northampton County Council, if only they have, you know, they only have 2 schools, I think now, which they're directly responsible for. And that is where this presentation will start, with the education. And if I may, Chairman, I think Claire's got a copy. I think this is, I can pass that to you. I know you'll suffer a little bit with your eyesight.
Thank you very much. There's got to be an easier way to get it down the table, that's the talk, but thank you anyway.
Throw it straight at him next time, Colin.
If anybody should want a copy of the presentation, then please email Claire, the usual way, and no doubt, or Wendy. Let's give Wendy something to do on her last day, and then she can carry on. On the back of Councillor Jason Pritchard's very well put together report with empty properties, which had you been at council, you would have heard me praise you. But you weren't there, so you didn't hear it. But you were reading it in that. Sorry? Yeah, it was a strategy meeting where I praised you with the content of your report.
This went and cycled through basically the
recommendations. It hooks into the fact that everything was going swimmingly until 2008, when there was a recession and things fell off to one side. Whilst all that was going on, Daventry, along with Toaster and Northampton, was deemed to be growth areas, and this is where we actually reap the benefit going forward with inward investment, with an agenda that was quite straightforward. We deviated, yes, but didn't cross the line. And our investors, I think they like it, purely and simply because they're here. Slide that you have there. Growth sectors, logistics. 20 years ago, nothing was anyway in the shape or form of logistics in this area, purely and simply because we didn't have rail terminals, we didn't have the transport links that we do, and the logistics decided that this is the place to be in the centre of the country. High performance technology engineering came here on the back of Formula One, and I'm pleased to say that apart from Formula One, the other high-end engineering is doing remarkably well, in as much as during a recessional time, a lot of companies chose to take their work to China for cheapness, decided that after those parts falling apart in a short period of time, it was far better to have them remade in the UK for their longevity. Visitor economy, food and drink. This is where Claire and I are working on district-wide, and we don't like tourists in England. If you go to Scotland, you'll find brown signs here, there and everywhere where to go. You cross the 23 miles of the Channel and you'll find them, or if you go into Wales, and we don't like them in this country for some reason. We're not very good at hospitality, but we're working on it. The next one, 82% of the population.
Can I stop there as well? Because it's an interesting one, isn't it? You say we don't like it, so not necessarily. So, what can we do towards making, if that's an ambition to further growth the sector, what can we do to encourage this as an attractive place to work and develop? or what is being done to attract?
With regard to tourism?
Yeah, tourism, leisure, sport, tourism.
If you take tourism in the UK, as part of our UK makeup, or English makeup, we're the ones that sit there and have fans waved on us, we're not the ones that wave the fan. And our psyche in England is such that, we're not very good at it. You go to Italy or Spain or they're very good at hospitality and
Councillor Brown.
the Scots.
I would say there are certainly some regional exceptions to what Councillor Bruce put forward, and I have just returned from Cotswolds for a few days down there. Interestingly, in that part of the country, they do things very well. The hospitality industry booms, and the same can be said of parts of the southwest of England as well. So I'd say probably regional examples that could be used as benchmark and
generally speaking,
gold standard that we could possibly try and roll out elsewhere in the nation.
Yeah, but generally speaking, we're not good at hospitality.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of take on board, but I mean what would be good to hear what the chair alluded to, which is like, what are we doing badly? Why are we doing it badly? And also key growth sectors. It's like, I think it's quite nice to have high performance technology, engineering, and motorsport up there. But it's there's loads and loads of things happening in the world as far as industry goes, and it's interesting that you just how do we pick those out as well? So I understand logistics is an important growth sector because that's what we appear to be. And I also think I also worry a little bit about the visitor part of it, because I don't think it's just visitors. I think if you actually look at the tourist statistics, most tourist days are actually hours, and people don't go that far. So anything that we can do to keep people within the district and just beyond it is, to me, is part of that key as well. So I think we should focus on that.
You're absolutely right. Hence the reason why Claire and I have looked into it. We are not talking the odd million, we're talking about billions.
I'm not minding that, I'm just asking.
No, we're talking about billions of pounds that can come into our local economy.
And Councillor Paul, can I ask you another question? With Brexit, what if all the immigrants go home and we have no really with any customer service skills? What's our strategy to put the gap? Because quite frankly, in my experience anyway, most of the people that serve you well are immigrants. And a lot of the English people are actually often on security.
Did you notice my silence then? It's a hypothetical question as far as I'm concerned, and also it will never happen. We are not minded in this country to send all those home.
Not saying if they sent home, but if they were to decide to leave, there's already
if they decide to leave, they're fine. I have a very simple attitude in life that has served me quite well. Yeah, I've lived with people and I've lived without them. And a dependency on a certain structure within a company or in an environment.
So let's phrase this in a way. What is there to attract people that are very good at this kind of service?
What is there to attract? Let's people look at the industry of hospitality as serving drinks and waiting on tables. That is not the be-all and end-all. If you take, for instance, Fordsley, they had a recent accolade, Fordsley Hall. Fordsley has encompassed regeneration of the building. They need management for that building. They need planners for events. So we're talking event planners. They need IT services. They need gardening staff. Claire was a little bit shocked. It was one of the first places in England to ethnically cleanse the neighbourhood. And you look shocked. Because Fordsley Hall was there and there was a village, and people may wonder why there's a church sitting in the middle of a field. Well, because the people that had Fordsley Hall ethnically cleansed the village people out and created another village called Newnan. and then the ground was laid out by Capability Brown, and has now become a tourist attraction, a wedding venue, a conference centre, etc., etc. And when you look at the few people that are serving behind the bar, or the few people that are waiting on tables, then it is an industry in that sense. And don't let's forget that the people that wait on tables and serve behind the bar will happily go up the food chain, and in particular with places like Forsley, who are more than happy to promote and train.
Is there, last question on this one, because I'm conscious of time we need to move on. Is there like maybe a sector skills council or a development organisation that can help to train more people to get them into this sector, locals, etc.?
I don't know of one locally. SEMLEP have been offering various courses, etc., to get into that area. But it's an area that we could do very well in this country.
Just add to that, yes, SEMLEP do have some training programs that employers can tap into, and they also run, just going back to your question about sort of the next generation working in this industry, there's a national scheme that was piloted in Daventry, so we're kind of well ahead, called Enterprise Advisor Scheme. And unfortunately, I actually met them today, and unfortunately the take-up in Daventry hasn't been that great, so we need to do some work with the secondary schools where it's not like your work experience kind of service, it's where someone like Forsley Hall, if it was covering hospitality for example, would work with a secondary school and work on their curriculum to get more people interested in that sector and make sure that people are not only interested but their curriculum prepares them for the kind of skills that they need in that sector. So that can be hospitality, logistics, finance, engineering. So there are schemes available.
Good, thank you very much, Cousin Richard.
I really understand the value of business in rural communities as well. So I'm responsible for 2 villages in terms of my ward. I'm trying to set up business links with local startups, those established businesses that all sort of can benefit from information that we pass through the parish councils or through myself. But I just feel that I don't get everything that I can pass on in terms of business, in terms of enterprise, employer skills and training to grow these communities. I wonder if I could ask you to pitch things more my way so I can pass them on, because I'm developing rural email links with them both, and I really want to actually.
Be very happy to discuss that. I mean, I've not that long been in post, but one of the things we would like to do is eventually build up some kind of database in the e-bulletin, because there are things out there, such as there's the Northamptonshire Growth Hub, which provides startup support, and then SEMLEP provides more higher growth support. And they do various training courses, there's funding opportunities, but we kind of get confused by it sometimes and get the message through. So we do want to work of pushing out so there's more take-up in Daventry, because the figures aren't particularly high.
There was Summit Toaster racecourse was on the 8th of March, and that came my way, but didn't go to the parish as such. It's just that being selfish, if you're looking sort of macro, village first, but I'm looking wide as well, Daventry first. So I understand the importance of this all.
May I just explain, Councillor, that Councillor Pritchard is at Braunston, where we invited Tim Colan along to our tourist meeting. Claire organised a tourism forum where we can actually start and get together and talk about how we're going to encourage people into our area. And because you have Braunston, shortly we will be exhibiting at the Braunston Vintage Boat Rally in June or July. So we'll be exhibiting there with Love Daventry, promoting the Daventry water space, promoting industry in Daventry, if you like. So we'll be there. Tim Colan albeit of different politics to you, is a village person and will assist in every way.
I know, well, we work together on everything, so politics doesn't get in the way of it.
Politics doesn't need to come into this meeting either, actually, but interesting point.
Anyway,
let's review what
can we move on?
Yes,
Chairman, because I'm very conscious that I've actually got 5 minutes left.
What you've took from that, Councillor Boyd, in particular, is I think we know those top two sectors quite well.
Yeah.
But actually, that final one is of quite a lot of interest to us because
resident wages.
No, what about the growth sectors? And I think because again, actually, if you take you've got a lot of pubs there actually, haven't you, compared to some villages, and so a lot more we can do, particularly with kind of places closing down, etc. But yeah, you can jump down as you go.
With regard to growth, you may or may not have seen that Daventry district has something like 400 small medium enterprises have started up in about the last 15 months. And that's a lot of growth. Yeah.
I think sometimes have to have a look at why they're starting and the nature of those SMEs, etc.
Yes,
we haven't got time to go into too much detail now. That's the one thing, you see. We could have you all night, unfortunately, but we don't have that luxury.
Anyway, quickly move on. Low unemployment rate is there. Otherwise you'll never get through this, Chairman, trust me. It says low unemployment rate. What it actually should say is employment rate. Purely and simply because we are 6% above the national average for those that are employed. Everybody will talk about low unemployment, but we are locally 6% higher. From the job centre figures, etc., etc.
Yeah, but how many people are unemployed at this point in time in the district?
Probably about 1%.
How many? What is that in numbers?
I don't know the numbers. I will find out and send them to you.
That'd be really interesting.
It's widely accepted, actually, in the discussions we have with the job centre, that we're virtually at the level of full employment.
What does that mean? Because if they're unemployed people, they're unemployed people, aren't
well, there's always going to be people who are currently out of work, but it's such a small number that it's literally, you have a very, very small number of long-term unemployed, and then a small number of people who have the churn, so people who are between jobs for a short period. So we're virtually at, as high as you're going to get.
Amazing, really. Does that include 0 hours contracts as employed people on 4 hours a week? Does that count as an employed person?
Well, if somebody's people who aren't in receipt of employment benefits, if somebody was on a 0 hours contract on a regular basis, they're going to be getting some sort of benefits.
Good. So that's the measure. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if we go on to the next screen, I think this one will probably surprise Councillor Wesley. Because when we talk about logistics, we always think about box shifting people. Those that lift the boxes in the warehouses, low wages, etc., etc. When you look at the slide, managerial, professional, technical, and yet only 20% of the population are in the manual end of the scale, and lots of people will say, well, you're a town of logistics and you're only box shifters and there's not very good employment prospects there and it's all very low tech, but it actually...
It doesn't surprise me. I've been in those places and actually...
you've seen it,
It's quality, there's not as many people as you think in the big sheds.
So, that screen there is against a common view of what
Council, there's a perception that those kind of warehouses have slave labour, basically, pretty much.
Yes.
What are you saying, the statistics?
Statistics are saying that they're not. I mean, Councillor Pritchard mentioned in his report the proliferation of e-commerce. And you know, this is where we are in Daventry. Several companies have moved to Daventry purely because of e-commerce and all their backup systems, etc.
Councillor Paul, you often helpfully circulate emails about companies coming to town. If Sports Direct wanted to come to this town, what would you say to them, particularly with some of their alleged working practices?
Do you have a problem with Sports Direct?
Not personally, well, maybe I do, maybe not. It's not there, but in terms of working practices that can indicate that
I do have a problem with Sports Direct. However, if you talk to the chairman of the council at the moment, Alan Chandler, he went for many years up until the time when he lost the ability to walk on 0 hours contracts. And it deemed him very well. Whilst I employed a number of people when I moved to Daventry, a big number of them, 20% probably, were on 0 hours contracts. They were students going through the educational system. I had a register of all the students. Invariably, I would get a phone call 2 weeks before term time started. Do you need me? Do you need me? Do you need me? So there we are. That's one type of 0 hours contract. The other side of the coin is, yes, you have charlatans like Sports Direct who took liberties, yeah. We also have a number of delivery companies at the moment that are taking liberties. We have Uber with their taxis that are taking liberties at the moment, but they will be tracked down. But the original concept of 0 hours contract wasn't a bad one until it got abused, and the abusers will, you know, be held to task going forward because, you know, thanks to people like Councillor Pritchard and his colleagues are pushing it to the nth degree and bringing it to the fore. But it was never a bad thing. It was the, you know, the people that used it. If you go to...
Okay, Councillor Watt, I get the point. It was a simple question. Thank you. Let's move on to the next points. I know we could talk about it all evening, I'm sure happily.
Education and skills.
Thank you.
Right. I'm not going to read it all out. It's fairly simple. You can read it as we're talking. The biggest problem on that page, 12% of no qualifications, low level apprenticeships lately, low educational attainment, and the biggest one of all, above average educational attainment in feeder schools across the district boundary. That hurts. It hurts me, it hurts parents alike in Daventry. 600 children leave our town on a daily basis to be educated across the border. That is something that we are trying to address. Why did the UTC fail? Well, part of it is within that. It failed purely and simply because you would take children in at 14 and not when they were there at 11. The other reason it failed was the inability of the original principal to take on board the number of high-tech companies that were in the district. The Cosworth, the Cummings, etc. all worked with the UTC in setting out the curriculum, etc., etc. And within a very short space of time, the principal let all these companies fall by the wayside. And that was a tragedy. I had meetings with him once I took the portfolio on. And out of about 8 very good companies, most of which were high-tech companies, has fallen by the wayside and left with one.
It's probably a lot to ask, isn't it?
And that was a tragedy. How do we get high-tech industry into Daventry? Nobody is going to come to Daventry without a skill base.
Skill workforce.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Councillor Wesley?
Yeah, that sort of seems to go against the first slide a little bit, because I did sort of ask it and you didn't really answer about the
just to get on.
The motorsport and high-tech industries, which you were saying was a targeted more growth area, and then you sort of intimating that it maybe isn't. If you,
I think they're there, but they're not linked to the school system.
No.
That's the point.
Yeah, but the
Councillor Paul just said that how do we attract them in, and basically can't because we haven't got the people to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what he just said. And,
can I make a suggestion? What would be really helpful? Because I'm kind of having the same question buzzing around my head. This is very interesting statistically and it's descriptive and all the rest of it. What I really want to know is what we're doing, and actually what you won't be able to see the rest of the committee is a couple of slides down. Councillor Paul's actually got some actions. Can we jump forward a couple of slides?
Yeah, there's just an overview of logistics and
actually, we're happy for you to run through those very quickly. Don't stop in. Do it as quickly as you can, and we'll get to what you actually do the powers. That's all really interesting.
Engineering and motorsport. Yes, I mean motorsport is important. Yeah, but it is not the be-all and end-all of high-tech engineering. You know, that sounds strange to some people. But we've got. Yeah, you're shaking your head.
it's not strange, is it?
Yeah, because when you
1 minute. Okay. Councillor Bishop, do you have a question?
I'm puzzled, that's all. I don't know if anyone else is. Here we have South North Hants. Well, of course, there's lots of motorsport activity around there, engineering, top-end stuff around Silverstone. But then you've sort of quantified it with some Daventry data when you can't extrapolate that the people in Daventry actually work there.
Sorry, just to add, this is not necessarily, this is the figures for the South East Midlands. We don't have a lot of Daventry.
Right, yeah. It's missing.
What I can tell you is that many companies in Daventry, particularly high-end tool-making companies, are allied to the Formula One trade.
Well, you say allied, they're in their supply chain, are they?
Yeah, right. Yes, and there are 3 or 4, which I won't name for commercial reasons, that want to expand because their engineering skills are such that the F1 teams are using them. But yes, we do very well.
Councillor Paul, can you tell us what companies are operating the Icon?
Can I?
Yeah. Is there a clear list we have which actually kind of indicate the top?
No, and you won't get one. Why do you pull out the Icon?
Well, 2 reasons. One is
do you know the conditions of companies going into the Icon?
I don't know the conditions, sorry.
Well, there are conditions of companies being resident in the Icon.
Well, they should still
It didn't come out in Councillor Pritchard's report. It just highlighted the fact that there were a number of offices empty in the Icon. However, the Icon came about because of Daventry District Council wanting to put in £3 million to kick-start it. Fortunately, we didn't have to. We fought against Leicester and Nottingham to get the Innovation Centre here, which we got. However, money from the European people in Brussels deemed that there are constraints with those that enter the building to start their employment or to set up business.
What are those constraints?
Because it should be allied to eco-friendly.
What's the definition of good question actually. What's the definition of eco-friendly?
Well, I can't go in there and start up an office building if it's got nothing to do with the environment. Yeah.
So are those constraints still on those businesses? So they have to demonstrate their
constraints are still on
ecologically orientated.
They're still on the Icon. Hopefully with Brexit then they will be removed. There is a I think there's a covenant on for probably another 3 years, which could probably go through Brexit. But, you know, the Icon has an occupancy rate of about 80%.
80%. 80.
Yeah, somewhere there, I don't know exactly. It's run by...
We still know what kind of organisations are in there.
What kind?
Yeah. We use this term eco, but who sets the definition of what eco is? What is the definition?
They do. It's a building for set-up companies. Yeah, one of them was IT company who went in there, and it's the best way to describe it is to play solitaire. If you play solitaire as a child on a board, you can't play solitaire until you do one thing, and that's take a pin or a ball out of the middle and create a hole. And that's where we are with Icon. Icon go in there and it has a 2-person office. That then 2-person office becomes a 3 or 4-person office, and they want to move. So people are moving in and around the Icon as they're growing, and then eventually they move out.
Do we make too much of the contribution of the Icon to the local economic success of these businesses? Because it kind of feels like we just play on the story, but we don't know if they're really effective.
Well, yes, we do. But
how much do we often contribute?
We often play on stories. It doesn't have the amount of effect that
Okay. So what role can we play?
The 400 SMEs that have been created without the Icon. Yeah. It serves a purpose. Its original intentions were absolutely brilliant. That place could be heaving tomorrow if the covenant regarding the EU was taken away.
It's interesting. Did anybody know about it? So I think I remember actually my recollection was they had to have certain parameters and conditions, but I didn't know they were still in practice. Councillor,
because wasn't it supposed to be tied up with the UTC?
Sorry?
Wasn't it supposed to be tied up with the education establishment as well?
No.
But in the story it was, wasn't it? It was sustainable building, and then the other percent was sustainable building.
Yeah.
That was
there are a number of factors within the building. It could have been, it is there as a conference centre. However, we don't have anywhere in town for people to stay for a conference.
Let's come back to that.
We've got one hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Councillor Brown.
What are the consequences of breaking the covenant? Am I right to assume that it would be a case of the funding having to be returned to the EU should we start allowing businesses that don't fit the criteria to move into the building?
Well, one point on that, because we're not in charge of that building anyway.
No, it's not
It's operating university, so the university have to enforce it.
Northampton College.
Right,
Yeah.
so...
Sorry,
consequences. They are all...
Councillor, stop a second. You said Northampton College.
It's University of
It's
Northampton.
University of Northampton. I beg your pardon.
That's okay. No, I want to be precise about the terms so we're not confusing ourselves.
They do audit.
Who's they? So?
EU
Right. And so if we weren't complying with the terms of the covenant, we'd have to return funding. Or the university
No,
would
if
return.
they are not complying, not we.
to do with us.
Right.
Yeah, if they're not complying, they're audited. Yeah.
What I'm really interested to know is how would you, if I say my business is Colin Morgan Sustainability Limited, right? How does anybody know the nature of my business is or is about sustainability?
If I could answer
How could you demonstrate that?
If I could answer that, then there wouldn't be Brussels. Because I can't answer questions either.
I can confirm there are strict criteria. Certain businesses would have liked to have entered into their start of businesses and weren't able to because they didn't meet the strict criteria. But that is independent already. And I'm also aware that as they've grown, some of the businesses have actually moved into premises that we own and rent. Because I think part of the reason why Icon was set up was because there wasn't any serviced office space suitable for starting.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. No, so the logical question actually is we've got a big green space next to that. We're always debating about put something on it. Couldn't we develop something like that ourselves, which is our own incubator unit, and we have much freer covenants on start businesses?
Yes, we could.
So forgive the sort of...
Shall we budget for it?
Shall we do it? Why don't we
Shall
do
we
it?
budget for it?
I believe it is something that there is something on the master plan for site 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah?
Councillor Wesley.
Yeah, so can we budget for revamping the hotel to encourage the conference scene as well?
Well,
It goes back to your first point, actually, about facilities for visitors.
It takes away an eyesore in the town. doesn't it?
within site 3, within site 5, there is a hotel scheduled. Within site 3, there is a possibility of a hotel. We have a hotel up on the top of Lang Farm, which is very, very tired. If you go to the Premier Inn at Floor,
It's the Holiday Inn. It's Premier Inns anyway to offer conference facilities.
but please go into the Premier Inn at Floor.
The Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn at Floor, I beg your pardon, because unbeknownst to me, it's a franchise,
Yeah.
and they have, the one at Floor is one of, I think, 11. The other one is one of the Hiltons in London, or the Hilton in London, but
Yeah.
they have turned that round, and it is absolutely fabulous.
The point is, Councillor Paul, most hotels are not operated by the brand owner. They're franchised out anyway.
That's right.
Very few hotel organisations actually own their own hotels. Let's move on a slide. I think we've dealt with the ICON one. I think we understand the restrictions on there.
Well, the ICON is not dissimilar to that of the Weedham Barracks, where for 6, probably 8 years, I've been trying to promote and get things happening with Weedham Barracks, because it's a derelict site that should come back into the world. I've set up several meetings in the past. I brought in photos of docklands, and now all docklands were regenerated using the existing buildings, but you run up against people that have money to invest, or a parish council that won't accept that if you build 50 houses, then you can get something else.
Maybe you should take some inspiration from Dubai Marina. Dubai, I was there 2 weeks ago, and where the Burj Khalifa is, that they've built in the last 2 years since I was last there, a whole canal basin, and lifted the road over the main highway, and it's all completely finished.
Where?
Dubai.
Dubai.
Yeah, I know Dubai's not really our model when it comes to planning, because it's an autocracy, but it just amazed me how fast they did to me. Can I ask you a quick question, actually,
Interesting, the man that did the green flag was also in Dubai given a green flag.
Well, exactly, I recall that. That was, I think they can set their mind to these things and get them done, that's the point. No, the question I have, actually, is that gateway into Daventry we often talk about, where the scrapyard is and the landmark and the hotel you're referring to. That's a complete eyesore. What the hell are we doing there? I've got to do something like that.
I had a guess that this would come up. It's not very.
But you've got a garden centre next to a scrapyard. For goodness sake.
Just at the bottom there, where my finger is at the bottom here, is the scrapyard. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You have an L-shaped piece of land here. This here going up here. Yeah, there's a piece of land here. I'd love to find out if I got the right one.
Yeah, I think that's brown.
No, the piece of land here.
Ah, yes.
I'd love to find the owner of that piece of land, and that is a problem. However, I will share, purely from the confines of it.
Wait a minute,
So would the land registry not have details?
Yes, yes.
But you can't track them down?
Yes. When you knock on the door that's not there. Yes.
That's the other side of the road, though, isn't it?
It's part of the original 2004 master plan, when that particular area that I highlighted, the opposite side of the road into Park, and the fuel station and the hotel that was part of the original master plan for development.
That was 13 years ago.
Hang on.
Don't hang on me. Hang on a second. I want to bring Councillor Osborne. We've got a quick question. I don't want to hear about things that are like 13 years old.
We were at the local plan meeting this morning, and I know Colin's views because they're exactly the same as mine. I put forward again, and we discussed this part of Daventry, and it is going into the local plan to look at the old hotel there, the scrapyard, the Dennett's site behind it, and also the opposite side of the road, so that when you actually come into Daventry, without destroying the, let's say, the important features on top of the hill, Borough Hill and Burnt Walls, you can actually get high-class development, which Colin and myself, with our planning hats on, have always wanted. The officers are very aware of this, and hopefully that will turn up in the stages of the local plan going over the next 2 years, so that will be developed both sides of the road. We don't want to see that.
No.
On the other side of the road, we don't want to see 2-bedroom houses either. No. We want to see
quality development.
Quality development as we approach that.
That ticks these boxes about our ambitions. Maria?
We would all agree, everybody would agree, that for 20 odd years that has been a horrendous entrance to the town. If you recall, going back 20 odd years, the reason we were stuck with that scrapyard is because of a planning appeal that did not go Daventry's way, because we refused that.
Yep.
The powers to date are quite limited with what you can do with regard to that, in terms of compulsory purchase and that sort of thing, but planning and housing reforms coming through should give us more opportunities for compulsory purchase. The hotel is in private ownership by an individual that I've investigated over several years for several reasons. It suits him to own what is been rated as a derelict hotel and do nothing with it except have a night watchman and a housekeeper, and to keep it from being taken over by squatters.
Incredible, isn't it? Incredible situation.
So
the owner of that hotel is also the owner of the premise directly opposite the town council, which goes from the bank up through to what was the old dentist and which was
a purveyor of derelict buildings,
which thought would be flat.
He owns a number of derelict hotels.
The reason for me saying hold on, Chairman, I'm not that rude, I would like to think, is that there were many...
It's sort of a one that's
being recorded. There were many instances whereby, prior to Interpark expanding to the point that it is now, and this is commercially sensitive, they were asked to move.
You shouldn't be talking about things that are commercially sensitive.
No, they were asked to move, right?
It can't be commercially sensitive.
And the fact is that we have been working on that project of moving for that amount of time. You said, 13 years. Well, yeah. We have been working on it that long to remove that section. And it does take that long.
That goes back to my point. I know we're concentrating to it. That goes back to, but anyway, I'd like to buy in 2 years with the whole gateway. Let's. Anybody got any questions on this one? Conscious of time.
Yes, it's coming up to 50 minutes now, Chairman.
We're rolling all your speeches into one, and you are getting some questions tonight, Lisa. Let's go on to the next slide. This in the deck is the final slide, so people have a quick scan through. Does anybody anything to add, Councillor Paul or Claire? And does anybody have any questions? So what we're really all about is what are you doing to drive the agenda?
I think we've captured most of it here, but one of the most important things, as far as I'm concerned, is education. And we had a group of people that come together. I can't remember what they were called, Maria, Ian Vincent and Chris, what's his name, Morton, what were they called? Anyway, education that has come together for the betterment of Daventry, and then the government of the time withdrew the £30 million funding. so we couldn't get our educational quota. And through the insistence of our chief exec in pulling the education people together in Daventry, hopefully we are poking our nose in and lifting the offer. We've got primary schools coming to Monksmoor and Micklewell. Monksmoor will possibly be a Church of England school, so that's fine. But
where is the school at Monksmoor? What's the stage? What stage is it at?
It's the level of the plateau has now been raised thanks to leaning. Sorry, Mark?
I said hence the hole.
Yeah, the land will be passed over to DUC for the development imminently, within weeks.
Yeah, it's the problems with developers as usual. You know, to bring forward. We forward funded the school, or we're forward funding Micklewell School as part of
Micklewell School.
Monksmoor rather. We're forward funding Monksmoor.
If I might clarify, we've agreed that we will, if required.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it'll be required because they're almost at the position where they've got to put
Well, they've got to put it in.
The education money in anyway. So I think we would if we needed to.
Yeah.
But I think
because the number of development houses.
There were only about 18 houses off their point where they've got to contribute to it.
Yes, that makes sense.
But, you know, typical developers, we can't do it because we can't afford it. However, the other side of the coin is Monksmoor have sold tremendously well, far exceeded their expectations. So, and they dragged their heels with regards to putting a plateau to lift the school above a floodplain.
Well, I remember that presentation when they told us how socially responsible they were.
Yeah.
Because they care about their community.
Anyway, we've got two failing in town, and that is the problem. We've got Daventry Southbrook Learning Village. It will always be called Southbrook, whether we like it or not. We've got William Parkmore and Parker Academy. And whilst they have recently had good Ofsted reports, one swallow won't make a summer, so to speak. And, you know, education in Daventry, we all know it has been failing for a number of years, and we are working our cotton socks off at this moment in time, behind the scenes, to make sure that the UTC building is not empty when it finishes its term in July. We're pushing that forward, and the intention is to get quality names to come into the town.
Thank you. It's interesting because we had a look at a house recently out of interest next to Ashbourne School, and it was £569,000 for a new house there. Yeah. And it was I thought it was a disgrace of a price of what it was.
Yes.
And the lady at the show home there said it's because it's next to Ashbourne School and it's in hot demand. And that has a massive impact on those house prices. Not necessarily for the better amount. And I think you could have easily bought a larger house on Monksmoor, which is a much nicer development than that one next to the Ashbourne School.
That's the sort of prices you get in on Monksmoor and Avent anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a tiny house really for the price. And you know, I've been in space.
Yeah.
But it's just really struck me comparing the prices here to the prices there.
But
I think we offer better value for money here, but of course the schools are a different proposition.
The development in and around Ashlaw area in Rugby is absolutely tremendous.
It is.
A lot of speculative. Their housing land supply is down to about 3, so a lot of speculative development coming there. But Ashlaw has a particularly good reputation, and no doubt Councillor Pritchard will know. You know, it's a bilateral school, and you know.
Well, I think they're taking area now down to a mile, which is the houses next door are so expensive. It's just absolutely incredible. Anyway, but what I would say, Councillor Boyce, thank you very much as always for coming into the meetings. Thank you very much for working with Claire on that very useful presentation. One thing we definitely say about, well, I personally say about you as a chairman, is that you're always very supportive of this committee, and you're always very open and accessible, and you certainly sing the praises of the district, which I think is really good. Does anyone have any final questions for Councillor Paul that we haven't covered, or any depth?
Can I just ask one?
Councillor
I'm sorry to drag that, but I do, again, I appreciate it. I appreciate hard work for you, and I know some things are, it's frustrating, they're out of your control, etc., etc. But I'm looking at things again on there, and some of it just, to me, it just looks a little bit wordy. And I think maybe opportunities to tell councillors what is actually being done, because there's words up there like encourage and diversify into manufacturing, creating factories including R&D. It sounds nice, but to me, how on earth do you do that?
Well, the whole emphasis on what we're doing was a couple of slides back. And a couple of slides back, I mentioned to you that 600 people, 600 young students are leaving Daventry every day to get qualifications over the border. And right at this minute in time, I mean, Chrissy Harris, Chris Miller, just a minute, Chrissy Harris, Miller, Chief Exec, myself, have been working on it for 18 months to try to sort out the education in Daventry.
With all due respect, Durft actually borders on Warwickshire, doesn't? I mean, it actually is right next to the people that are coming out of Lawrence Sheriff and So, you know, I mean, if we're I'm just saying that shouldn't be holding up them. That shouldn't be holding up the businesses going there, because if what you say is true, then there's a ready-made number of people coming out of those schools to go into that slot. Unfortunately, they don't have to come out of Daventry. They can come out of Rugby.
Well, Durf was originally, they can. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's the same distance, isn't it?
You've got Alton, which is a huge development, which is going up at a rate of knots, of course.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, so that I understand what you're saying about education. I fully agree with you, but it's just how you actually make R&D and manufacturing happen in what is a logistics park.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put it another way. 400,000 square feet building. Yeah. Will house, let's say, 20 of the higher echelon employees and let's say 60 of the others, or 2020 with automatic trucks, etc., etc. 40,000 square feet. Research and development building, yeah, with 400,000 square feet, I beg your pardon, yeah, you could probably get 8 companies into that same space with research and development. Yeah. And to get them in, we need the people that can go into those jobs. So they need to be educated people. Yeah, we keep coming back to this education. And
yeah, thank you. I think the point is here, this is like a pyramid now, and I think we clearly identified the issue. Basically, it's about high skilled jobs, and it's chicken eggs situation. Don't let me finish. Sorry, let me finish. Basically, the primary building block of this is the quality of education in that district, and I know you've done a lot of work on that, and I'll come back to you in a second. And I think going back to my point about the £569,000 very modest house next to Ashman is you've got a gradient, haven't you? If you've got kids and you want to get them into a school and you can pay the money, you're going to go there rather than here.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge we have in terms, and I think we've used this term many times in the past about educational and general aspiration of the people in this part of the district in particular. Can I let Claire have a contribution?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, I've put about an opportunity read through the local plan, and in my short time here, I get a lot of inquiries coming from businesses directly, and the majority are looking for around 15,000 to 30,000 square feet, where they're either new companies or existing companies, good quality companies with highly skilled PhD people, two of the examples, and they can't find anything to move into. There isn't anything around that area, so the local plan is a really good opportunity to identify some land for that size, because to me that's one of the biggest risks. If we don't have more of those going forward, we are going to end up with just big big sheds.
Big warehouses.
And then there's nothing, so businesses that want to grow, there's nothing for them to grow into.
You need a kind of a stagger type of opportunities.
Those big sheds could house logistics. It's the same use class to do some of these R&D things. So, the fact that we've got that and DERF 3 will dwarf what's existing there from DERF 1 and 2.
They're giants.
It's massive,
I mean, let's take the green space again, the one that we always talk about, the Eastern Wing. I mean, what about, obviously things are moving ahead, but what about, there, we talk about all sorts of things, couldn't that make a fantastic, beautiful business park? We're again around the water space and very high quality places for businesses to operate, particularly rather than some kind of hodgepodge of different things. That might really...
It could do, there are many balls in the air. However, Claire has highlighted a wonderful problem that we have, and, Councillor Shepherd gets fed up with me saying that we're 98% occupancy on our commercial properties. Well, yes, that's wonderful, but there are times when I wish I was like the Icon and I could move people out and play solitaire with these people.
It's only funny, the first time you said it, but it makes sense now. We've got to the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop you there actually, because we really could carry on all day, and unfortunately we've got the rest of the agenda to get through. But Councillor, thank you very much, and I do really appreciate you coming, and thank you for you too, Claire, as well. Nice to have you at the meeting.
I would like to thank Claire for the work that she's done. Have that recorded, if I may, Chairman. Presentation, if you want it. Is available.
Copies can be circulated to members. Thank you.
To use that old adage, my door is always open, Chairman.
I think Claire may be going now.
Yes, we are both going to be leaving shortly.
Very good. Agreed. So we had a chance to say that, would you? Good, thank you very much. So we'll carry on, Claire, and you can make way out in due course. So this evening, because the point in the cycle, we don't have the corporate plan update.
Thank you, Claire.
This is the one meeting we don't have. Thank you very much, Emma. What we do have though is a morning work programme. Are you launching it? Really, thank you. Oh yeah, good. So this is the document. I couldn't quite cope with this format, so I've gone back onto the. I've had a hard copy produced for me, courtesy of Wendy. Thank you. You all know how this document works. Basically, it's only there for reference. It tells you about the finished projects, etc. And once you've gone past a few, we can roll them off. Now, what I would like to do at this meeting is I would like to ask you, because it's so long gone now to kind of save space on there, that we take off the rolling work programme item number 4, assignment number 4, because we actually concluded that back in 2015 and we don't really need it on there. You know the way this works, everything's got an assignment number, so we know where we are, particularly now we've got down quite a few. The only other things to bring to your attention are that we've got a couple of gaps with earlier ones where we're waiting for 1 year reviews. But courtesy of tonight's agenda, they should also go green, so I think we're making some decent progress. I don't, unless anybody wants to, I don't want to add anything tonight, particularly because of the point of the cycle. We've got a bit of work to digest and conclude. I shouldn't think there's really too much to note on that one, basically, unless anybody wants to ask me any questions about where we are or any particular projects. There's something not quite, doesn't it feel quite surreal with it on the screen? I can't quite get used to it.
Saving the ozone, Chairman.
It's quite hard to make smaller, actually. But there you go. The main thing all you need to see is mostly it's green and working through the projects, and we had quite a few heavily congested agendas for a couple of meetings, and after tonight some of it will come off. And obviously at the end of the year then we'll cycle a bit more off, but I'm going to take off item number 4, so this makes it a bit smaller. Okay, good. Let's carry on. Let's get down to the assignments themselves. The first one, actually what I'd like to do is I'd like to switch the agenda if nobody minds. I would like to... No, I don't need to actually. I'll keep it as it is. Assignment 18. Councillor Robertson, who you know had a bereavement, he was due to give a verbal update. We wasn't sure if he was coming. We, as you know, this is the last one in the cycle anyway, so I'll have to take that accordingly. But he's not here to give the verbal update. But what I can give you a verbal update on, because of his personal circumstances, he hadn't made any progress on it. As you'd expect, it's a very difficult time for councillor officer under the circumstances. Let's move on to assignment number 19. So I'm going to hand the floor to you, Councillor Brown. This is your verbal update, and you'll be giving us the full report next time.
Thank you very much. Righty-ho. So essentially what I've decided upon is that I've looked at several other sports strategies from district councils across the country to benchmark our own against. From reviewing those and reviewing our own performance, Daventry does tend to follow an established model of operating regional hubs to provide opportunities for fitness across rural communities. Those are then backed up by facilitating the operation of local sports clubs through grants. And in terms of the grants that Daventry is giving to its local sports clubs, local community groups, we do actually perform fairly well against other comparable councils. I think Suffolk Coastal District Council, Cotswolds District Council, which I looked at, was the third, which I can't remember off the top of my head. Does seem to me that, particularly with Suffolk Coastal District Council, they have a very comprehensive 10-year strategy for their sports, and the 10-year strategy, which was I believe put together in 2015. Our approach at the moment is somewhat more piecemeal. So I think when we did put together an open space sport and recreation strategy in 2009, I've started looking into how much of that has actually been implemented. Certain parts have, and parts actually haven't. So there's.
Could you tell us which parts hadn't been implemented and why that might be?
Off the top of my head, I can't at the moment. It's something that I'm working through.
Right. Working through the detail.
Working through the detail at the moment. So certainly over the years, certainly since 2007, we've had a number of different strategic documents published by DDC. What I think would be helpful as part of my report and moving forward would be if the council could devise a new sports strategy, not necessarily a 10-year one, but certainly a medium-term strategic document that would map out how we support the needs of fitness across the district.
Councillor, the issue is always really the kind of the same. Basically, people need to stay fit to be healthy and all the rest of it.
Yes.
People don't exercise enough. We've seen those reports this week because we all sit around looking at computer screens these days. A lot of people are getting too fat and we eat rubbish food. I mean, isn't that the truth? I mean, a 10-year strategy, isn't it just the same for 10 years? What's the difference between just out of interest, what's the difference between a 5-year strategy and a 10-year strategy? I mean, what really changes, and how can that improve the impact by having a longer term strategy?
Merely the fact that the 5-year strategy will inevitably be reviewed after 5 years, whereas if you implement a 10-year strategy, then it's left
to waste.
It's just left to drag on, I believe.
But what might you say? I mean, how can things what really changes over the course of a 10-year strategy? I mean that's the point. To me, it makes sense.
The needs and the issues remain the same, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because people just eat too much, get fat, and don't do much exercise. That's a fundamental point.
I mean, I think with the modern planning environment, we're seeing in Daventry district that the communities, the demographics, the size of the population is increasing. We're seeing it in Northampton as well, that this is a massively expanding part of the world.
So it's providing facilities for expanding community.
Precisely that. So I think, particularly in our part of the world, it's going to be important to have a shorter term vision because of the influx in terms of population, which is a particular pressure point on Northamptonshire, as the county council have seen with the pressure on their facilities in terms of adult and child social care.
Just give a question here. I remember one of the conversations I had in the past is, say for instance, not everybody wants to do lots of really intense physical exercise in order to be fit. But of course, one area is perhaps tending an allotment, for instance. And you see whole new developments going up, and there's nowhere for people to grow any local food, etc. And I think back to my own days actually on the town council, we often had this discussion about there needing to be these kind of facilities and amenities in the community as well. So it's not just because this combines two things, right? One is light physical exercise. The second is
generally, not
fitness generally, exactly, yeah. The connection to the land, and also about healthy eating. So can that sort of topic feature in the report?
Absolutely. And actually, I've been reading a document from the King's Fund about the role of district councils in health in a general manner. And one of the areas they identified was areas outside of the sphere that we would usually term as leisure, and allotments would fit into their definition for district councils.
It's good for our well-being, isn't it? Can have fresh air, etc. Let's open it. Does anyone have any? So we've heard so far some of the points that Councillor Brown's work, and it's come back with a full report next month, probably just as well actually. So it's a busy agenda. Does anybody have any questions for him?
It's just an observation really that we look at rural areas and we look at transport links in terms of bus services, being able to commute people to leisure activities, the fact that they finish at 5:30, the fact that it's inordinately expensive to actually run a car as a young person, to access those, so then you're actually focusing on what's available in the immediate vicinity, which may be very limited. So it's that connectivity that you suggest about cycleways, connecting things together. And here we are in certain situations, and I won't comment directly on reports and stuff, but I can, obtusely, that the money's there, the appetite's there, the political cohesion's there to go ahead with it. But it doesn't take many people to derail what was actually agreed by everyone, or try and find alternate routes, or procrastinate or delay and not connect rural aspects, because there isn't that appetite, as Maria suggested, anymore. Not that I think it's very pleasant either for CPO, to go down that route, but in the end, people miss out. They don't benefit from that connectivity of using cycle pathways, as there is from Welton. That's a great innovation, connecting up to the Daventry cycleway, but we're not blessed with miles and miles of cycleways around, as far as I can see, around the district. We're surrounded by roads.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Barr, no response.
I go back, being an old wrinkly, I go back to some of Lowry's paintings, or I go back to...
Councillor Barr, I never know what you're going to say next.
Well, purely and simply because we cycled in this country before a cycleway was invented.
But there wasn't so much traffic in particularly large vehicles.
Well,
we were less likely to concentrate.
I would
not the volume we have today.
I would argue that, if you go to the East End of London, as I do frequently, the number of cycles there, the average speed of vehicles in London is less than 8 miles per hour.
I think the mortality rates of cyclists is
incrementally cyclists.
Sorry?
Amount of cyclists who lost their lives in a recent period of time in London.
Cyclists lose their lives in most occasions because they are incompetent cyclists. Now, we can argue this, but
I think, we haven't got the evidence of... Wait a minute. Go on.
I've got to say,
and then we'll come back over here.
When I was a big cyclist, the M1 wasn't open, and I used to bike to Rugby. Now, if you've ever biked to Rugby along the A5 from Longbuckby, that's what we used to do. And we used to bike. We consider it a challenge if you could get there alive. Get up Kilsby Hill. There wasn't any bikes in those days with more than 3 gears. In low gears, with lorries just about touching your shoulder, shoulder to shoulder, it was far more dangerous, and traffic was far heavier in those days than it is now, sir.
Well, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
Well, you weren't there trying to cut Kilsby Hill with lorries right next to you.
That's correct.
Let's hope to get back to that.
I would just we are more risk aware and more risk averse these days, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I totally agree with you, but however, You know, when you drive as often as I do in London, and you see the total abuse by cyclists, you know, they do have cycle lanes, they abuse traffic lights, they'll go across the pavement down on the other side to miss a red traffic light, and one wonders why they die. However, I would like to get to the utopia of Councillor Pritchard, that we end up like Holland. Unfortunately, we're not as flat.
Councillor Paul, it's not a utopia. Rugby is connected to massive leisure reservoirs all the way through Dunchurch, all the way to the main centre.
The utopia being that people would like to cycle.
Yeah. I would actually add that Councillor Smith did circulate a very informative document to all councillors, I think, very recently about connectivity to cyber networks, and that's something that.
And you've had organisations like Sustrans that are going for years. I think the point is, I agree, it's not utopia. Basically, it all fits together. Actually, it's about a vision of a more sustainable community where people get healthy and fit and they're connected. Councillors, let's take a comment from you.
This is about the rural stuff. I mean, I'm not going to get into the cycling argument. It's actually not totally relevant to this, apart from connectivity is vital in sense, and that can be walking connectivity or cycling connectivity or even bus connectivity or whatever it is, or even in the cars. I know some people find it difficult, but it is about being able to get to where to the item you want to go to. But before that, for me, I think we've got there's some excellent sporting clubs around the district outside of the town. I think I said this to Adam last time, and it's about, as well as in the town, that people can come to, so dotted around all over the place. I think what surprises me is, as being a member of a growing club at the moment, which is a cycling club in Daventry, is how difficult it is to get people to know about it, despite organising events and Facebook pages and everything. For me, the key to it is to really, really try and get this communication network, not just in physical terms, but this council really, not just saying it's a facilitator, but being that real facilitator to tell them that we've got a fantastic rugby club, there's a fantastic rugby club, football club at Long Rugby, and we've got football clubs dotted all around the place, and there's really, really good things. But a lot of people just don't get it, and it also needs that help to get people to go along, because it's amazing how scared people are to even walk down the road and knock on the door of a club. And I think, maybe it's about this council organising sport events.
Maybe the women's cycling event will happen.
It's those sort of things that actually really, really come to the fore and brings people through. And if you can come up with some sort of communication, facilitating things, it's like our sports awards. That's good, but But joking apart, we bring people in from all over the district to the sports awards, but the truth is, it's fairly poorly attended.
And they're already engaged.
And they're already engaged. And it's just like, how can we, maybe there's more awards for people that are just starting out. And all I'm saying is, to me, the strategy is physical communication and actual communication.
Okay, and have you two been speaking about this actively as well? This particular element?
No, we haven't. No.
But can I recommend you also have a chat together? But I really like this theme coming through about connectivity as well and linking together. Basically, the cycling's really grown, isn't it? And as are the allotments. It's about you had to do something anyway, be it transport or pleasure, and it's about bringing it. I don't want to be cycling on that road thinking I'm going to get knocked over and run over by a lorry. It has to be a more pleasurable experience now. We are a bit further ahead now.
That's whatever you say on that, it stops people going out. Whether you guys think that it's not dangerous, I'm just telling you it is.
No, I don't disagree.
But it's not all about cycling.
It is dangerous.
It's not about schisma.
It is dangerous, but there used to be a footpath between here and Weedon. It's non-existent. There used to be a footpath between here and Norton. It is non-existent.
Where did it go?
Anyway, coming back to...
It stopped being used regularly, so when it didn't get maintained by whoever, people didn't notice. And I think
they've just grown over. Yeah, in Warwickshire, they use those on community service to clear the footpaths. Anyway, going back to Mark's point, that it's getting the word out, and it's getting the word out about this. I listed a number of projects going forward, and when I walked down the road and somebody said to me, "What do you mean we're getting 4,000 houses in Daventry?" And I said, "Well, didn't you know?" And it is a frustration, and it doesn't matter whether it's cycling, whether it's, Councillor Pritchard's project about environment and getting, niche elements in villages or whatever. It's getting that word out, and we are.
What about communication? I think that one and that one. Are you okay with that? I'll bring you back to the next time. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Good.
Red sky at night.
Let's go on to the next topic. I think we're all looking forward to that particular project. The next one is one that we've definitely all been waiting for. Is Summit 20, Councillor Frenchman. Now, Councillor Frenchman sent his apologies and asked me to open this one up to the floor. Now, those of you who were here at the last meeting, you'll recall basically this
debacle.
No, it's not debacle. Basically, the way Scrutiny operates is we bring things to the table, we discuss them, we reach a conclusion about whether we take a set of recommendations forward, and that is basically a collective endeavour which I lead through as the chairperson. Not always easily, because some of these are quite controversial. Now, the paper you have before you, page 11, I'm not going to go into the details. You saw it before, it's been here before. It's been taken away and had a look at the recommendations, but we also had commentary from officers about this. And this evening, Maria's here, obviously taking over Tony's position. But what we need to do, and we can take any views from Maria should we need them. We also have Councillor Osborne here, and Wendy's usefully handing out the feedback we had on these recommendations. Now, we have to decide, and we'd have to do this whether Councillor Frenchman was here or not. Do we agree with the information we have before us on his logical approach to the topic and the feedback we have from officers if these recommendations are to just go through as they are? In which case, you know what happens next? They go through the machine and they get to strategy group, or we actually look at them and say, are these all? Do they have merit? Is it useful for us as a scrutiny committee to push them through? And what I'd like to do is give you a minute or two to have a look at the comments we've had, direct feedback to myself as the chair overall, and Barry as the chair of this particular committee. And then we'll have a discussion about it. We could do it in one of two ways. We can either take it on block, or we can have a look into some final detail. So my job really as chair is to basically give it a fair and balanced discussion, and then we'll make a decision. And of course, as you're reading, if I ever let you have a chance to read it, you'll perhaps pick up some core themes.
Not being a member of your committee, Chairman, and
you're welcome to speak nonetheless.
And looking at the time, I'm conscious of people wasting time with these meetings. Is it worth going through the recommendations one at a time and looking at the SMT comments at the same time? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I'm looking at number one here, recommendation is unnecessary. I'm wondering if it could be done that way.
Yeah, so my thinking, thank you, Councillor Board. My thinking on this is this. We basically we could have dealt with this all before committee, but actually want to have a proper discussion about it. We've got a set of views from management who are very closely operating on a daily basis. And we've got from the chairperson of this working group, as well, he also is a parish council member, and a particular set of views. And somewhere, I don't think they're meet in the middle, which is a bit of a challenge to us. Now, we know that Councillor Frenchman's very passionate about this, and we think we're all getting to the same place, but I think it's about method. So I actually agree. Councillor Paul's a very good recommendation. Shall we take it this way? Unless, first of all, anybody has any overall comments on the overall recommendations. Any overall comments we'll take first, and we'll go in detail.
Chair, my overall comment on this, and I was actually part of this as one of Councillor Frenchman's team, so I did do.
Yeah, of course. You can probably speak to it more directly.
I actually did some. I mean, I didn't put a report together, obviously, because that's Councillor Frenchman's, but I did provide him with information from the interviews that I did. Unfortunately, I was ill towards the end of it. I was off for 2 weeks. I couldn't do the others. So.
I remember because you were just about talking to clerks, etc.
Yeah. Well, no, I spoke to the external people, but I didn't speak. We were going to speak to officers as well. I actually missed that appointment, which is unfortunate. But I think just generally, the feedback that I got from speaking to parishes was pretty much summed up, and I think everyone had a similar experience from reading the Councillor Frenchman's notes and the final report. And I pretty much agree with the recommendations that he's got on here. And I think just having scanned through this, I think I can understand the responses, but I don't think it's detrimental to anyone. And I think basically just across the board, I think it's almost sort of nitpicking and saying you don't need it. Well, you don't necessarily, for instance, you don't necessarily need it, but if it's there and it's in writing, then everyone knows that it is there. I think part of it, from my discussions with the parish councils, it's a slight lack of confidence and a feeling of lack of feeling there's a bit of opacity in our system. And
opacity.
There's opacity in the system, and they feel whether we like it or not. That's the impression that I got, and I think we should do everything we can to actually open it up. And if the words are there to say it actually looks more open. And then if anyone feels it hasn't been done, you do actually point to it and say, well, did we do that? Where was my opportunity to do that? And I think it just makes it easier for people to talk.
Yes, please. Go and ask a question.
How many parish councils did you personally consult?
I did Welton, Daventry, and then telephone and email, Woodford. That's 4 or 5. I did 4 or 5.
70.
Well, I did 5, but I wasn't the only person.
I'm just trying to get because
obviously, well, what we did, Councillor, we actually sent. I think Councillor French suggested we sent invitations out to parishes to actually get back to us.
Which you did. Because my own parish council didn't respond to it.
Yes, so I didn't. But please, I mean, all you can do on these things. I mean, it's like any consultation, as we know in this council, we get 10 responses and 8 of them are good, and we say it's brilliant. And I think
it's the same everywhere.
Well, there is.
Yeah, it's a general.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So we did have some.
You often make decisions on.
And we might argue that those respondents maybe had more of an axe to grind than other people. But we've also got parish councillors out there discussing it, and there were just general open discussions with parish councils that it wasn't out of the formal process, as I understand it. So, I think there must have been something like, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers because I haven't got them, but I would imagine there was more than 20 parish councils spoken to. What are you shaking your head? If I did,
I'm saying you didn't have information from 20 parish councils, but I'd welcome.
I interviewed 5, and there were 4 other people on the panel.
Can I? Wait a minute.
So I can't be categorical because I don't know who else spoke to who.
So, but the point is, I think the real issue with this one is there is something going on, but we're not quite sure what it is. Maybe it's a perception issue. Maybe it could be turnover at parish council level. Maybe it could be acumen, competence, awareness. It could be a whole range of issues.
Just to answer that,
do you know the biggest issue?
Wait a minute, no, not yet.
I actually went. I was at Welton. I was at the Welton, and they were. It wasn't all bad. I don't want anyone to think here that it was all. it was all absolutely slagging off Daventry District Council, because Welton were actually really complimentary, weren't they? You were actually there at the same meeting, because I actually went to the meeting to do it, and they were really complimentary about officers and some of the aspects. So I think the aspects that are picked out here are the gripes I have, and I think Welton Parish Council is a good example, because it's a supportive parish council that understands the need for development and the need for things to happen. They're quite switched on in terms of how they engage with the planning process, but they did feel that there was a certain amount of opacity in parts of it, which come out in this.
Yeah, so this issue of opacity is, wait a minute, this issue of opacity is one that I'm troubled by, because I think if you say, is it a case of they think there's opacity, or simply they don't understand the process, or they don't feel they have access to the process? But I mean, these recommendations, there's two questions really fundamental. Does it have any harm by bringing these forward and saying, look, you're almost passing it open and saying, you have to think about it, now we've got it to your attention? So if there's no harm, there's no problem. But if it basically contradicts anything, or conflicts, or basically confuses issues, there's a problem. But actually, by bringing it to your attention, maybe there is a piece of work we could do that does need doing, because people have these things. Maybe it goes back to that point about communication that Councillor Paul's raised earlier. Councillor Paul, I'll let you have your word now.
Well, it depends. I mean, either side of me, I've got two colleagues who, like myself, sit in week out planning, and have done for a number of years. It is no disrespect to Mark. Sorry, Councillor Wesley, that Councillor Wesley's come on board and makes some very good comments also, and participates very well. However, you've mentioned Welton Parish. Welton Parish, the other side of the coin, is one of the most difficult parishes to work with, etc., purely simply because...
I think that's...
Hang on, just 2 seconds.
Unfair
no, well, it's not unfair comment. Not unfair comment when, various threats were made to me personally. However,
let's move on. Let's keep it general if we can.
The thing that upsets most parishes is 4 letters, S106. And the moment they see that they're not getting anything out of an application, then that is where the antagonism starts. What's in it for me? And that, to me, is the bullet point 1 here. Bullet point 1. Pre-application developer after consent to their information being shared, effective paragraph. You can all read it, yeah?
Let's go back to the specific ones in a minute, because I want to have a couple more minutes of general discussion, and then we'll about what potentially issue might do. I'll go Councillor Tom quickly, then Pritchard, then Brown. Thank you.
I don't want to specifically talk about anything at the moment. I just want to say my background is 31 years as a parish councillor. Chairman of most of that time, and 30 years as a district councillor and a member of the planning committee all of that time. So that's my background. So I would consider that I've got a reasonable knowledge of how the planning system works as far as parishes and as far as the district's concerned. That's what I want to say at this moment.
Thank you. Can I address that actually? Because there is a point actually. So you maybe, you've obviously done that chair planning for a long time. You see lots of people, you have a perspective on it, etc. And that's probably a much broader experience. But is it maybe the point that because you are so experienced in Lombok, you are so experienced, etc., that actually you perhaps miss things from maybe smaller parishes with people who aren't so well equipped to do this, and they do feel that they're dazzled by the complexity of it?
No, because I spent a lot of time in my early chairmanship of planning going round parish councils and talking to them, and Welton was a parish council I talked to, and I have to say I don't very often disagree with my colleague here, but Welton Parish Council has on it some very brilliant, articulate, people that know how the planning system works.
I agree with that.
That they're good.
Okay, thank you. Let's stop there for a second.
No, I don't believe that is so.
You don't think that's the case?
No, there is a changeover. In all parish councils, there are those that are interested and that know a bit about planning. And there are those that don't know a lot about planning. That's in every parish council. The same as district council.
Same as anything, basically.
The same as planning committee. There are those that are good at it. So,
so the question is, and we'll come to this now.
And they do swap over regularly as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do we do enough? And let's go take some of these other points, and then we might start to draw down into what we're going to do. Councillor Bishop, you first.
Where to start? Where do you start? I mean, we've got a response here that's 3 or 4 pages. It's in depth. You cannot possibly, any of us, make a decision tonight in terms of me seeing, you know, greatest respect, me seeing SMT responses to each recommendation. The fact that the person who wrote the report did most of the field work along with Councillor Wesley isn't here is another important point.
I agree, it's unhelpful.
In terms of equally unhelpful was Councillor Paul's comments. But thank goodness Councillor Osborne has stepped up and said, well, I agree totally, these aren't NIMBYists, these are erudite individuals that have the interest of the village at heart, but without NIMBYism, and understand that there needs to be development. Yeah. And they put that hand in hand. Yeah. So thank you for that, because that is the case. Equally, I find myself agreeing with you and then disagreeing with you, because the chairman's point about having acumen for 31 years of planning is what we're having is a disparity in certain parts of the district. When people that are part of parish councils and have quite a lot of knowledge of planning, and then have found themselves engaged early in the process with different outcomes for a different parish. And you can't have that disparity, and I think you do need more candor, because that is the word, open transparency, and that's where I stand.
We do have long training sessions for them.
Yeah, they've accessed it through NCAL, but
no, from us.
Yeah,
I can see there's provision for extra.
Runs an awful lot of training sessions for
I agree with that recommendation.
So let's go, can I have a look at that a second before we go around? Because the question you might ask you is, okay, we've run a lot of training, there's a lot of pushback on this one. There's also a lot of force from our side from Councillor Frenchman saying, look, there is an issue here. So we kind of have to land somewhere and say, well, how on earth do we know if there's an issue or not? You're saying there isn't, they're saying there is. Is it a case that the training we do simply isn't as effective as it should be? How do you know how effective it is?
How do you take your course?
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know about that, Maria.
I think it's important to say that we are the local planning authority, and whilst it is in our interest for our parishes to be absolutely up to speed as much as possible, because it's easier to work with them, the more they know, better informed they are. It's not our responsibility. They are a party. They are one of the consultees. So whilst we do invite them in, you know, it's in their interest to get their own independent voice. There are certain planning training sessions that we hold that we absolutely don't invite parishes to, because they might be going through complex legal stuff that actually they'll be on the other side of the party. We've done appeals training, for example. And I did have that conversation with Councillor Frenchman during the course of the review. You know, as local planning authority, they are just one of our statutory consultees. So it has to be quite clear what hat we're wearing. So yes, we do invite them. I go to all the parish and town councils conferences, always getting feedback, putting stuff out, informal feedback about different issues, but it's not our role as local planning authority to train our parishes. And I think, you know, that's important to know. We're happy to do more where it's appropriate, but it's also should be noted that the Members Development Committee made it very clear, because I used to routinely invite parishes to every planning training session, and they made a decision 2 or 3 years ago which made it very clear that they absolutely expect planning committee members not to always have parishes at the training, so that we can speak candidly about, you know, the parish position is going to be different on this one to ours.
Before I come back to give the floor to Councillor Bridger, do you say it's not an obligation we have to equip them with the knowledge to be able to, you know, engage in the process? Not our obligation.
No,
and that's actually basically that. Is that documented somewhere like that? it's not our obligation to do this.
If I can quickly...
They're independent bodies
Right.
who, you know,
They're a
the
consultee.
law says they're a statutory consultee. It's not our responsibility to
delineation
train them
of-
any more than it is our responsibility to train the Canals and River Trust or any other statutory consultee. They will have their own views and their own opinions, and they make representations, bad or indifferent. I mean, we absolutely invite them to as many training sessions as we appropriately should, but it is still not our role to make sure that, you know, they're as well trained as our members.
Very interesting. Let's go to Councillor Pritchard.
I think what we want is a cohesive partnership between the council and the parishes and the planning experts and the committee being involved at the forefront, but also with equal involvement and enlightenment rather than not having a duty with the parishes as well. Now, what if I was writing this report, and in respect to Councillor Frenchman, you know, we talk about what resources are available to a parish. We talk what's available for Welton when the developers are on the doorstep, which, you know, are welcome to a certain degree, and there's more development in terms of church fields. But in terms of legal advocacy and conveyancing solicitors, that is not achievable through a precept on an ongoing kind of discussion if that solicitor was going to be employed for a period of time. But so what I would do, with the parishes together, you know, what my recommendation would be...
But that's for them to decide, that's not...
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But you don't want to have that...
They are
adversarial kind of approach.
They are independent parties. We have to respect that they have a different role to our own members.
And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. As independents, I would
We need that Chinese
say
wall.
cohesively they would employ a solicitor and pay into a pot, so that solicitor's available for each parish to find planning. Is that what you want?
Well, some parishes have done that. Some parishes
72.
you know, where they've got the SUEs and they're working collectively. Some of them are joining forces and they're buying in consultants and all sorts of things.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
So operating together to bulk up. I'll come to you in a second. Let's go. I'm simply stacking in order. That's all. Councillor Worthing next, and Councillor Paul and Councillor.
Just on the general stuff, I have to say I'm a little bit confused by the conversation, because I think Councillor Paul was actually agreeing with Councillor Frenchman with his report when you look at it, because the primary elements of it aren't about training on this. The actual training part is actually minimal on this, the engagement. So,
But the responses look like it's about awareness.
I don't think it's about information. And that is picked up by the first. It's involvement and information in that, and being actually part of that, and that's irrelevant of training, because we're actually, remember here, this report is about large planning applications. We're not talking about a shed in the back garden. We're talking about 10 or more houses being built. So when these things come along to a parish when they're relatively large, I mean, obviously something is Daventry is larger than a small hamlet somewhere, but this is about larger developments. So they're important. They're really, really important to the parishes, and it's being involved. And Councillor Paul is absolutely right in this. It's like the S106. Yeah, it is what's in it for us. It is what's in it for us. And at the moment, what the feeling is that they're not involved in the what's in it for us part. That is the genuine feeling. That is the genuine feeling. So what this report is asking for is to be involved as much as possible in that process. That's what the report should do.
Yeah.
It's involved in the discussions about S106, where it goes in. And you're absolutely right. That is what this report shows. You're spot on, Councillor Paul. That is the main concern with this. And I think what Councillor Frenchman goes on to say in his logical progression is that there's the concern in this capacity about the results of. It's not so much whether they get planning permission, because the likes of Welton know that you've probably got to engage an expert, and they have done. As I know,
does this ultimately come down to perhaps a perception of the deficit of democracy?
Yes.
They don't genuinely feel like they've got a stake in the process.
You know, they feel they have a really, really. They have a good discussion with the planning officers about the wrongs and the rights of the planning, what they can actually comment on, whether that's a valid planning reason and everything. And there's a lot of people out there that are very, very clued up. it then comes, but it's the bit about what happens next, about what happens to them, and whether they get.
And that also comes down to awareness. So surely, if you can navigate as an expert through this process, then
how you
You don't need to be an expert.
It's the engagement. It's the points of engagement, and the point is, even if we say the point, what he's saying here, if we just say no, that's all there, that's all there. When you've got people saying it isn't, let's listen to them and just try and make it a little bit better. And then at the bottom of this, it goes through and say, well, actually, maybe for some of those people, some training will be a good thing. Maybe not. And I think it's a good, sensible bit of work that actually puts what I heard in the right place.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think that's hurting anybody. I don't think we should be frightened of it or whatever. Let people be part of it.
Let's before I come back over, I need to tend to my committee members first. But no, it's okay. I appreciate you here because obviously you contributed to the report. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard, and then we'll come back round here.
I didn't have a comment to make.
Oh right, well that's okay. I think you were supportive of Councillor Wesley.
I was just being supportive of Councillor Wesley. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Reading through the recommendations, I think a lot of them are actually about communication and just emphasising for parish councils where they can make a difference on behalf of their residents. And no matter whether we're obligated or not to do that, I don't think it does any harm to remind parish councils where they can play a part. And I think there are certain recommendations that I would take issue with, but I know we're going to come back to the specifics in a moment. But my experience of parish councils over the last year or so is that a lot of the time they do feel like they're left a bit high and dry. They're volunteers a lot of the time. They're not given the supportive officers that we have as district council members. It's actually just a little more communication, a little more advice on the process would not be a bad thing. And whether the recommendations relate to that, I think I would be wholly supportive.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got those. Let's take a couple of comments in and then we'll go down to some business of what we do with this document. Okay, I think we've got a couple of paths clear to us. I think it was Councillor Paul, then Osborne, then we'll come back on to us.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't mean to be antagonistic, but however, I've sat in on probably 90% of planning applications, whether as a member of the planning committee and or not as previous portfolio, because I deemed it my job. And very disappointing for me, and fortunately the tide has turned slightly in this last year, that when you had a village application, after village would turn out, and there are a number of parishes within our district who are extremely proactive, and there are also a number of villages which will come along and have and make their point. And the point that I would always make is that 99 times out of 100, those parishes leave with a smile on their face, know that they've done the best for their villages and they've got the best out of it. The parish council, which is called the town council, employ a consultant which is within their precept for the major planning applications in Daventry, Churchfields, etc., etc. Welton did the same with regard to Micklewell. But there are a number of things here within this report. I mean, I've been through it, I've ticked up, and I will use the first one purely, I won't go any further than one.
Please don't, because we're going to come to them in a moment, so we're going to take them quickly.
It is the fact that they expect confidence to be maintained. Now, if I was Harry Tate Builders and I wanted to put something on a plot, I would not want Harry Osborne to know that I'm doing it. So the mere fact in one, developers are asked if their consent for information being shared with affected parish and ward members also to be involved at earliest opportunity. That is not commercially.
But you treat these people as councillors, that's the point.
I think it needs to be clarified. Is that it's actually a discretionary service to do pre-apps, and what we do is we offer a paid for discretionary service, and that is confidential. It never forms part of everything else in planning is absolutely transparent. It goes on the record. It goes on the record afterwards. So an awful lot of pre-apps a lot of them are majors, even though they might not be the huge majors. A lot of them might well be big enough by area to be classed as major, and they just die a death because somebody comes along and asks, is it going to be possible to build 15 houses in that garden? And they take the advice and it goes away. If they then come back and don't take the advice that it's outside policy or what have you, then it becomes a material factor on an actual planning application. So I think, but for the major ones anyway, pre-apps are absolutely ingrained in the statement of community involvement. We won't even be entertaining an application.
So it's not a problem.
Well, the point is it's not necessary.
Can I make a point here? What concerns me about this is we've actually read this a couple of times. It's been to our committee a couple of times. It's been in appeared in other guises. Is even we sitting around this table have a bit of a challenge getting through this document. And I think that kind of really exemplifies the point, doesn't it? How do the people in the parishes manage to get through this kind of document? Because we're reading it and and this we are dealing with this in the spirit of the public domain, of course, as you expect, Scrutiny. But when Councillor Pritchard said, look, it takes a little bit of while to marry these comments back up and work through them, that's taking us a little bit of time to get through. So how on earth can it be for anybody else? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly give Councillor Osborne the opportunity to speak, and then we're going to go back to the committee members only and ask you specifically as committee members what you want to do next, in the spirit of being an open-minded chair. So Councillor Osborne, over to you finally for this overall point.
When I first became chairman of planning, I wrote to all the parish councils, sent an email over saying...
How long ago was that?
About 3 years, isn't it?
A bit longer.
Yeah, 4 years ago now.
A bit longer than that. Anyway, I wrote to them all saying I'd be willing to go out to them and talk about any planning problems they might have and how we can help and all that sort of thing. And I got response from about 10, that's all.
Yeah.
And I have to say that 3 of them were Broadston, Welton and Barby. Those were 3 of them. Went out there and they were probably typical of the parish councils that are around. Some parish councils are more interested than others. Their questions were good. I hope they got good answers, and they said the night's all right, but they would do anyway, wouldn't they? But I expected more to actually come. Like when I was housing chairman, I went out to probably over 20 talking about affordable housing, but not such a big response on the planning side. Going back to what was being said to the left of me a few minutes ago, if you broadly look at this and you don't know much about planning, you would make the comments that Councillor Pritchard would make, which is generally they need to be more informed and they don't seem to be informed enough. I haven't got a problem with informing people about anything. Not a problem at all. So informing people, it's the involvement in certain things, and we'll come to it in a minute. Maria's already talked about you can't have parish councils involved in pre-applications. It would not work.
Well, we can come to that actually.
No, I don't know as a for instance.
Yeah.
But there's several like that. Well, some of these there's nothing wrong with, and some of them you can modify them so they produced exactly the same thing, but didn't hurt the planning system, if you like. So
it didn't have a negative impact on the planning system.
That's right. But you're never going to get every parish council as knowledgeable on the planning system as we are on the planning committee, and the longer you're there and the more difficult. If you're not on the planning committee, it's not easy. No. You're thinking, well, why can't they be involved in that? I see no problem at all.
So some of it's technical. Let's thank you. I'm going to part that point there. Let's have a quick comment from Councillor Pritchard, then we'll actually decide between the 3 of us actually what we're going to do next.
Okay, just that I understand regularly commercial sensitivity, I understand confidences, and I understand the planning stages. I'm glad you said that about those parishes, because they're self-funded And recently, most parish councils have gone on planning training that they pay for through precept, which, so they're on board with that. But we wouldn't be discussing this if there was a standard formula that everyone agreed and maintained and applied to every planning application. And developers also didn't renege on certain agreements or in terms of the timescale and all these things, but it's so variable.
Yeah, but so many things are done by negotiation, and they're outside planning. We've all experienced, you don't have to have been involved with planning for very long, things like what happened with Micklewell, things like all the wind farms, the amount of side deals that parishes did because they did engage with developers, and they would never have made it to Sector 106 agreements because they didn't meet the tests. So you know, there is an awful lot of engagement by applicants, and there is no one size fits all because every application has to be dealt with on its merits. You know, we have to look the other way effectively when we know a parish is doing a deal with an applicant. It's not anything to do with planning, but they've managed to negotiate an extra win, if you like, that's a gain that's outside of what's appropriate.
And that's them doing that as the parish.
Yes, and that happens.
And we've told them they can do that.
Yeah, and that's because you have no obligation, and basically they have to manage it as their own independent party.
There have been times at a planning meeting where a developer has been sitting there, and let's say there should be a fence along that window, Now that's not part of anything within the planning papers. The developer has been sitting there, and the chairman might be minded to say, well, I think Councillor Paul could be right, there could be a fence along those windows. And the chairman would look at the developer without anything in writing, the developer would just go nod like that, and that would be the matter resolved. Planning is a peculiar item.
Which is why I don't like to get involved.
It is one of the most challenging parts of a district council.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to leave it there for a second because I think actually, this, again, why I'm so keen to have this in such a public way is because I also have concerns that there's a conflation here between the roles of the parish and the district council, and that's the point you're making, which is they are separate entities. The district can't be, he's not only not obliged, but it's not helpful for us to take an overbearing paternalistic role when we're dealing with them.
Well, even things end up in appeal and they have a whole different legal status. I mean, there are lots of very good solid reasons why we have to keep that separation.
Yes, and I do have a concern that do we have enough, even does this committee have enough information? Well, actually we don't have, because our duty is, it looks interesting, we can pass it on when it comes through the council. I'll exclude everybody else in this conversation. We need a very short conversation between the three of us. What would you like to do at this point with this? We've got, I think there are three options. Option number one is we send it back again to Councillor Frenchman to have a review of. Having said that, bearing in mind the track record of this particular document so far, I think it will just come back again, or just block it and it won't come back again. So that's it, we're not going back on the agenda. Secondly, we recognise there are some issues here, but we're not quite totally clear what they are, and therefore we take each one in turn and deconstruct it and push some of them through, which will help. Or we basically take them on block and we'll say we're taking those recommendations. It's a bit of a lazy way, but basically it works through the system and they'll get pruned accordingly before it gets to strategy in terms of. So how would you like to deal with them?
My preference would be for option two.
Option two, so take them individually
and construct.
To be clear. Councillor Pritchard, what would you like to do?
Can I listen to Councillor Wesley first, even though I have my own opinion? He's been involved. What would he like to do?
I mean, it's not my report. I mean, I think it's a real shame that Councillor Frenchman isn't here today, and I think that is the crux of it. And I think, to go through, you can't go through those points. I mean, I think.
Well, I think can I just shortcut that, because those points have been with Councillor Frenchman for a while, and he hasn't addressed them. Okay. And basically, his last note to me was, I want it to go through as it is. So that obviously would do because he authored it, and I think you could argue he's been quite dogmatic about it. My job as chair is not to take a dogmatic view on this one. So So that's your opinion. It's a shame he's not here.
I think it's a shame he's not here. I think,
but he has seen that. And
which I can't. I mean, I think my view on that though is that it's fairly. I don't think it hurts. I think some of it is just words, and I just think it's a good idea, and I think things would just work better if this was in place without hurting anybody. And I think we shouldn't keep talking about the roles. What the parishes are asking for here is having their say. It's just as simple as that. That's what came over to me, is having their say.
And the reason for that, I mean, not all, but the reason for the senior management team response is, it's quite, some of them with some tweaking or whatever are fine, some of them are fine as they are, but some of these, the clear management advice is that's not an appropriate stance for us as local planning authority.
It's not about not hurting, it's actually...
No, it's actually potentially harmful. Like, for example, number 11, the site visit one.
I've just done that one.
I mean, that's not the first time that point's been made by Councillor Frenchman. I know it's been discussed by corporate governance before you were even a council, I believe. And it's...
Can I just say, when you read the words on that, it does say review. It's not asking you to actually put anything in place. The same with item 1. It's not telling people they've got to disclose.
Wait a minute, Councillor, I want to wrap this up.
It's actually just asking if they wouldn't mind disclosing. And if they don't want to disclose, then item 1 it goes out the window. There's no disclosure. It's that simple. But
it's about the nuances of it.
So no one's saying you've got to do this. And what on earth is wrong with actually discussing within the area of a development what the mitigation should be? What is wrong with actually...
We can't discuss that yet, can we? So we can tell you what's wrong with it, but
we can to me, because let's wrap up.
So overall, what I'm saying is it's just like, an opinion on it seems to be a good thing to have. Throw it out if you want to, but have the talk.
Well, actually, the people throwing it out, or otherwise, actually just the three of us, which is quite...
No, I meant...
but they can throw it out once again.
We want this built, we want this in mitigation. We can't have that because well, all right, it's thrown out then. Everyone knows.
Because the thing is here, actually, it's very simple, isn't it? Because basically, it's not about harm. We are about scrutiny improvement. Will it have a positive improvement on the way we do business, or the way we can help them do business, as long as it doesn't overstep the mark? Councillor Joe, come back to you a second.
I'm still have one last comment before I go, Chairman.
Are you going?
Yes.
Okay. Well, last comment before you go.
Well, quickly, Maria highlighted 11, right? And I listened to what Councillor Wesley said about review of site visit policies. Yeah, site visits are. Yeah, he's shaking his head. There is no need to review the policy for site visits because they're there. They're purely and simply. And within the author of this report, review of site visit, greater flexibility used by parishes and ward members. What we as a planning committee cannot do is go to a site and engage with local parish councillors, occupants or anybody else on that site. Now, I know Councillor Frenchman, and I know he would like us to engage with the local parish councillors to see what they think. I have a report from the town council which is against various parts of the Churchfield's North East Zoo, that is they are consultees. I have to live with that, I have to get round it. I can't afford to go to a site
surely, Councillor Boy, you mean basically listen to their views as stakeholders.
And they get their 3 minutes at committee, and that's...
I can't afford to go to a site visit and have people talk to me and say you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't do the other. I will explain to you after the meeting, perhaps we could have a meeting, various matters that have gone on for your better understanding, and I do appreciate some of your comments, and I appreciate why you feel that my comments are not quite correct. But
We did used to have site visits, by the way.
Sorry?
We did used to have site visits where parish councils were involved.
yeah.
And then there was health and safety came into it quite a bit. Everybody had to wear boots and a flaming hat, so you couldn't go on the site. And then it got so much that local people and parish councils could turn up and try and influence, and there was a hell of an argument on the site, which is not what site visits were meant for.
What is the objective? Well, I think we know the objective of site visits actually. So
Yeah, well, that's an obvious one.
Yeah, but wait, not well. Actually, it isn't. But let's
It is all carefully spelled out in the Constitution.
Of course, and that's where he's kind of taking on this. Councillor Ball, thank you very much. That's your final comment. Which I need to go back to my members, otherwise we'll never finish the meeting this evening.
I don't think it was going to be a lady, Jerry.
Well, it would do, because you've got a deadly combination of this report and council report, and you here now as well, councillor. So
you might have them both on the same meeting.
well, the problem is, otherwise you never get through the business. Unlike some meetings, we have got enough business to get through this meeting. So, councillor,
Do excuse me, Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Wendy.
Councillor Pritchard, you've heard some more views. What would you like to do? Would you like to take them individually, because I think perhaps there might be some merit in looking at them in a bit more detail? As for Councillor Brown, do you think,
can I just say, this is gentle, this is exploitative, this isn't dictatorial, this doesn't contravene anything in my mind, my limited, and it's asking for a review. It's not being instructive, it's not changing policy. A review is a discussion that we've all done today, from wearing safety helmets to boots to conversations that shouldn't happen between officials. And because of that, and because if you, we get very briefly, Chairman, just permit.
You remember, you took away.
Recommendation 1. At pre-application, the developers are asked if they consent to their information being shared with the affected parish and ward members, also to be informed at the very earliest opportunity, even in confidence. So that's what's suggested. Possibly that developers are asked if they consent to the information being shared. They say no, that it's not shared. The response that we get from the SMT is absolutely already happens, actually. Well, it doesn't.
Pre-upstage, case officers are routinely encouraging.
Encourage prospective major. There's no compulsion. They're not asked. It's just encourage. Do you see? What is the semantics, Maria?
Pre-apps are not part of the formal planning system, and that is deliberate. Because the whole idea is, outside of it being under public scrutiny, we try and iron out all of the difficulties, and sometimes very unpopular stuff just disappears because actually somebody wanted to find out without, the parish council and their neighbour knowing whether or not it would be likely for something to go ahead, and that is how it's done.
But it's a moot point if they say no, the developers, they don't share the information anyway. And isn't it taken out of our hands in terms of transparency? It's not our decision. It's the developer's decision. Either share or don't share. So en bloc, I would support every recommendation put forward by Councillor Frenchman to go through.
We have actually only discussed 1 and 11, so I'll be curious.
But we've also discussed other aspects, haven't we?
Yeah.
I've also seen some responses that I've sat here for the last probably 45 minutes discussing this now. At the first minute, I couldn't have an informed response, but I've read and listened at the same time.
Can I say 10 words, Chairman? The quick ones was, couldn't we, as a compromise, couldn't we get together and see the ones we do support and argue about the rest? Wouldn't that be a quick way forward?
Councillor Pritchard just said he supports all 11, so there isn't a compromise.
At least you've got something then that's positive that's going forward, because if you end up by proposing what that they all go forward, say that's the view taken by that committee, it's going to go to scrutiny.
To scrutiny, you'll basically go through the management team, you'll get involved, then it'll come back through strategy and blah blah blah, it'll take months away.
Yeah, that's right.
And it may actually get to strategy and wherever it comes, and just say no, we're not doing them anyway.
Or I can say that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, no. Number 2 is effectively accepted.
Actually, I mean, let's take that because I do agree. Actually, that I think I want to get as many through as possible, but I think some of them they actually, when you look at it like what we heard, the language can be a bit clumsy, and it may help us look more credible as well to refine them. So if we take a combination of individual and quickly run through them, it's not a kicking exercise, it's just a crafting exercise. Is that okay?
You're trying to be helpful.
I have seen it a long time ago. It got sent to me by Alice. I don't know if you got it. Did you get it a few weeks ago, a month ago? The revamped. You consulted with me as well. I looked through them.
Yeah.
What I didn't see was the responses. So I'm happy with the language.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the end, that's what Scrutiny is about. It goes through processes, it comes back.
Yeah.
Sorry, when you say, did you not see the management responses that were sent in January?
No.
No, so he didn't share those, perhaps, that was the point.
Okay.
But that's the point, because they've been kicking around a while. I remember last time we came, and we were about to discuss them and open it up, and Councillor Frenchman said, no, hold enough, I'll take it off the table. That was the point. And this was basically this very conversation we're having now, but we borrow was meant to take place in February.
Chair, but just a clarification on, I know it's not my decision because I'm not on the committee, but just a clarification. Obviously, if these go forward, you know, the democratic process will actually determine what becomes policy, won't it? So it's not,
Exactly, which is what I could say about a heap of times, do them on block.
so what I'm saying is, you know, we've got the chair of planning here, and it's just like then, you know, again in another public forum, it's just like actually no, chair of planning says no, I don't want that, and I think if that actually happens, that's a democratic process, and that is how it
So
goes.
do the officers say that as well?
Well, that's fair. No, Steve, that's fair enough. Sorry, Councillor Osborne, that's fair enough. Absolutely, but put it. This is. This
But I'm
comes
trying
from-
to think of a way
but
where you
this
can
comes-
get some of them through that
but the
are
point is-
useful,
the point
rather
is-
than lose the lot.
No,
Which
why
I-
would you-
The Councillor Brown
Why would you lose? Why would you lose the lot? You can still put it. The point. Councillor Frenchman is on this committee and has written a report. It's like present it to the process of the council. Let the council knock that. Because there's nothing.
I suppose the simple answer is because Scrutiny Committee is not God and it goes through the process. We're only about, we've got
presenting
some
what you think, so
it still has to go through. But the other point is, I think I personally do. I care about two things. One is having a proper discussion publicly, which I think we're doing. And the second one is quality recommendations which scan and they're logical. And I think if we're taking a lot of information, actually, there's a reason for that being the way it is, and okay, push it anyway. But even then, let me give you an example. Number 11, review site visit policies, right? Very simple semantic point. Are there policies or is there a policy?
It's as set out in the Constitution. It's not a policy, it's a procedure in the Constitution that was reviewed about 18 months ago.
Gotcha. So there's a very simple example, very simple nomenclature.
That won't go through.
So basically you would say, okay, well if I was looking at this, again objectively moving us, is there such a thing as a site visit policy? Yes or no? No. Even more so, are there site visit policies? No, there's no such thing. So actually talking about the entity that doesn't exist.
Protocol in the Constitution.
Yeah, so it's in the Constitution, that's the whole point. So little things like we could pour over these out. I mean, it's our fate, even if we have to roll a few things out, it doesn't matter, we've got to give it attention. Councillor Brown, let's have a quick comment.
Probably a question for you, Chairman, as much as anybody. It's a procedural matter. As a Scrutiny Improvement Committee, do we not have a duty to prune these recommendations, consider them so that we don't unduly burden other committees further down the democratic process? No objection whatsoever to those stages having their say, which they're entitled to, but we sit as a committee for a reason, not just a card pass.
Yeah, which is why probably I'm quite resistant to simply pass them on as they are. But again, it's a kind of democratic process between the three of us. I think what we'll do is let's have a quick look at them. I think we go through the mindset we owe it to him to push them through. It's a lot of work and think about them. But let's have a quick discussion about them each in turn. Okay, so number one, let's do it quite rapidly, but with that term. Pre-application, the developers are asked if they consent to their information being shared with the affected parishes, parish and ward members, also to be informed of the various terms. So I think there's a bit of a stream of consciousness there, but the point is, there's kind of like two tests, isn't there? Will it have a potentially positive impact? Secondly, does it breach any constitutional arrangements or any protocol, etc.? That's a simple question. So let's quick. Number one: are we happy or not for that to go through, or does it need modification? And that's just between the three. Happy or not?
I'm happy with that one.
Happy. Okay, great. Happy.
I am, but
But then you, by default, you'd be happy with more.
no, not just that, but those are two reasons, but actually the overarching reason is to help and support parish councils and meet the challenging opportunities they can represent. That is the purpose of the report.
Yes.
And if you apply that to number one, undoubtedly I'm happy with
So
that.
basically, within that scope, that meets our objective. That's interesting, isn't it? Because that doesn't necessarily benefit us, but it's the scope of the report, which you will agree is for that purpose. Okay, so let's take number one as it is. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm talking to these two in particular, but if there's any really strong views on it, let's do tell it from you as well. Do value. Okay. So number two, clarification to all parties what the stages of S106 negotiations are and what stages influence can be brought to bear. Clear signpost. For me, this is the critical thing. Clear signposting to section 106 agreements via the DDC websites.
There is information about 106s on the website, and obviously it's included that guide from parishes published last November. It's got lots of information in there about it. So I think the answer is this is already happening.
And that was the point in the feedback. So here's an example where you might say, okay, if it's already there, Councillor, you say it's not there? Is it not effective?
Well, I'm told it's not.
Well, you've got a copy of it. Every member of
the objective evidence is it was on the website.
There's a difference between what S106 is and how it can be applied to in general within the planning system. Councillor he's talking about the stages and the points of contact with it. So parishes can actually be sure when they can get involved here and have their say. Not the fact that they can talk about it.
I mean, they are encouraged. There's lots of information in there. It's literally covered at every training session I've ever been to.
I know, but my point there is that is the case. Let's clarify it even more.
But do you need to clarify if it's on the website? That's the point. Surely, if you want to know something about DDC, you have to go to the website. The question should be, is it accessible? Is it coherent?
S106, it will say it's along the lines of S106 has to be pertinent to that development. It has to be within the context of the direct result of the.
But Councillor, let's go to the actual recommendation. It says clarifications to all parties. You could argue this enables them to have clarification.
This is a guide actually for parishes.
About what the stages are of 106. Basically, clear signposts at S106 arrangements basically what you're saying is it's there. Does that meet the objective? Is that this or not?
Well, where are the touch points for the parishes and where they can have influence?
We start on the response in front of you and the paragraphs just above number one. We are.
Sorry, where are we?
If you look at the sheet of paper, the third paragraph on that email that was sent around in January in response, we always encourage, officers do this all the time, members do this all the time, it's at every training session. We encourage, even if a parish is really against something, we say from the start, face both ways. So even if you're putting in the absolute strongest objection from the outset, that is the time to start thinking about, okay, if this does go ahead, what planning obligations do you think would be reasonable? And that has been an absolute constant pattern for six years, and it's getting through to an awful lot of parishes.
Okay, so
it's the 21-day consultation period. Even if you're putting in the absolute strongest objection to a proposal, that is the time to think about it. And it doesn't matter how many times we say it, parishes still come back and say, "Oh well, we missed an opportunity."
We say that at every training session.
Every training session.
Okay, one second, Councillor Ryan.
I think with issues such as this, where the information is readily available, actually I think a lot of the onus should be on us as members to be informing our residents and our parish councils maybe better than we are at the moment. A lot of what I do on a regular basis with my parish councils is to explain decisions taken at DDC, is to signpost the parish councils to officers at DDC who will be able to assist or simply to provide the information that they're after. And issues such as this, we do have the information available, so that's something that members should be.
So going back to the objective, Chris, basically, the best way to communicate with people in a consistent way is to put something on the website, I guess, at the first instance. It's consistent, it's transparent, all the rest of it. What we're being shown there by Maria, does that tick number 2 or doesn't? Because in other words, if this goes back, what are you going to do? You're going to make changes to the document. You can't basically, there is a document. Does the document do this or not? No, it doesn't. Why doesn't it do it? What is it about the document that makes it not?
Because it's content text-based rather than algorithm-based, where you point an arrow, this is where the parish can get involved at which stage, rather than try and wade through text and what they can do where. It doesn't lift out that document for me.
Right, isn't so? Well, is it about the document is not fit for purpose?
This document was shared with every parish. We had lots and lots of feedback. This has been written for the parishes with all of their information captured in that. Asking them what they want. I don't know what else we can do, to be honest.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Point 2 is actually talking about not just saying here's a list. What it's actually saying there is, just putting forward a list isn't actually influencing. It's actually putting forward a list of suggestions. It's actually what people are looking for there is the involvement and actually sort of saying we want this because.
But that's not what it says. It says very clearly. There's clarification to all public. So basically, there are stages of negotiations. Here's what they are. Here's stages at which you parish can influence.
Maybe
and then finally, wait a minute. Finally, there is a signposting on the website. There's 3 components to that. Does it meet those tests or not?
Well, I don't think it does, because I think there's a pertinent point in this that I've just read on this email here. It says, officers do not discourage parish councillors from engaging directly with applicants, but make it clear it has to be in the context of DDC having to decide what is reasonable to be included in the S106 document.
That's what we were talking about before.
Is that in
they
there?
can have their side deal, yes.
Only certain things.
But
Is that
a 106 will not include some side deal that a parish
The
has
point
done.
is, if that's in there that says, at the end of the day, it's down to
We
just the
do.
council's decision.
Yeah. It
Doesn't say
basically
that.
says planning obligations. You need to bear this in mind, make them represent. Planning obligations will typically be used. These are conditions, and we can only do what's reasonable and whatever else. Look, on the left-hand side, for conditions to be properly imposed, they must pass 6 tests. So the information is there.
Yeah, no, but they can pass the 6 tests and still not be included.
No, if they pass the test, they're included. Fact.
We are dealing with objective facts, aren't we? That process either is
Can I just say something? There might be 20 106 obligations that are going to account for more money than is available, so some of them have got to go.
No, that's not how it works. Because a 106 is something that's got to happen to make something that's otherwise unacceptable acceptable. Either a 106 or a condition will make that development acceptable, and that means it's meeting the test.
Yeah, but can I just to be sure here, I think this is where I think the clarity doesn't come in. I think what people want to be sure of is that there is wheeler dealing, isn't there?
They wheeler deal outside of planning, yes.
No, there's wheeler dealing within it as well. There's wheeler dealing.
No.
I'm going to make a suggestion actually. Can I stop you there? What I'd like to do is this. I've been thinking about this before now and today as well. Maria, is there scope? Because it strikes me. Wait a minute. It strikes me actually, at the risk of giving up halfway through, that the only people that probably understand this process incredibly well is you two, actually. And the rest of us.
I don't understand this process that well. Keith Thursby will tell you that after 30 years he learns something new every other week as well, because actually that is the nature of the beast. It is an incredibly complicated, involved, subjective, winners and losers. It is incredible.
Some of it's subjective, some of it's objective, obviously, but that's the point. We're kind of almost creating objective reality in a document where a lot of it is subjective. So it strikes me,
it's always a motive, I'll say that much.
Well, exactly, which is why we've been discussing it so long, which is why we can't get rid of this. We're a very pragmatic issue, we can't just close this down and get rid of it. But the problem I have is this. I feel like we're making some progress, and I'm happy to invest the rest of them in just get this one thing sorted. But would it be almost, because you're saying, Councillor West is wrong on things, or not fully understanding the facts. I don't know if I understand the facts well enough. I'm not sure if Councillor Frenchman put this together.
Nor does a lot of the planning committee.
Yeah, but nor does a lot of the planning committee. And Which is why, going back to the kind of lazy approach, actually, I'm just tempted to just say take the lot and then come back with.
That's why this was produced for parish councils as well.
Yeah. I mean, that process started last summer and culminated in it being published in November. So, and that was with the engagement of district councillors and parish councillors.
I think it's a good-looking document, personally. And
it's an easy guide for somebody that doesn't understand planning. That's what it's meant to do.
And you could basically, very quickly get onto a planning role in a parish council, not about having to understand.
Yeah, and we've given hard copies, and this will be updated. It's going to be used as the basis for, because we've got some very old leaflets that need a fresh look, and they'll be going into a similar format. So we did this as our first one because we recognise that they're a key issue. The better informed, the better aware they are.
Better it is for the process itself.
For everybody, it's a less rocky ride through committee because at least people understand the different.
See, I sometimes think this whole there's a kind of agenda driving this whole set of recommendations, which is, dare I say, a lack of trust actually somewhere down the system, or a lack of comprehension, or a lack of knowledge, or a lack of understanding. I'm not sure. I still say after months of looking, so I'm still not sure what it is. I don't feel like we're I think the document itself is borderly opaque actually.
Can we give you some background, Chairman? This is the second time that most of this information has tried to get through to the council. It has been
corporate governance.
It is tried to go through governance committee to try and get that way into the council to get it altered. That failed. This was one of the members that tried to do it, which is your lead member here.
Well, I must confess, I got accused of heavy handed the second last meeting actually, when I just said let's bounce it off into the next one then for sure. But I don't want to get accused of the same thing because I still have to have a balanced chair role here.
Well, I have to say the fact that Councillor Frenchman is not here annoys me a little because he always says, my wife is a teacher. That's when I have my holiday. So he knew his wife was off this week because she's a teacher. And in fact he knew it Sunday, that's always his complaint. So he knew when he booked it last time that he would be on holiday and he would not be coming tonight. So that does annoy me just a little bit, as well as the fact it's the second time he's tried to get it through. So a little cheesed off, Jim.
I think I want to also exhibit tenacity in the fact I want to get it through.
And I want you to go home as well.
Yeah, well, you didn't put one of my meetings for an early night. But should we persevere? Actually, let's get back to drawing board and have that discussion. And we got some new. Should we just basically? Should we carry on with this? Should we go back to the on block because I'm feeling like rough it, or should we just?
I think you can get most of them through. It's only a couple.
Okay. Let's persevere. Let's go through them. Basically, this second one we can discuss that all night. Basically,
that's the one we don't like.
Number 3, getting a parish to sign off a clause.
Wait a minute, Maria. Number 2, what do you want to do with it, you two?
No, don't support
Keep it up.
Don't
keep it.
That is there.
We'll say it's there already. If there's not something there, what is the actual improvement we can make?
If there's any way in this next publication it can improve.
Thank you.
I think having seen it on the website, point 2 is largely superfluous. I'll omit it.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard, there's evidence. That looks like the document that he's referring to. It's in the public domain, it's clear, I'm not sure. I'll tell you one point about the way it could be pathwayed, etc. But as a old school document, it's pretty well laid out. To my mind.
Right. I don't know. I understand it's a good document, okay, but it's not complete in my mind.
Let's focus on recommendation.
Well, with due respect, it was consulted before it was published. If people want more to go in it, I can do an update and put more information in it. So if you would let me know what's not complete about it, I'll make sure that's added and we'll promote that.
Well, we can even do it for this process. What needs to go into it?
To all parties. That's what we're saying, is it? Clarifying involvement. That's the key thing is involvement for me. That here we have on this part of the stage of planning that we will actively solicit and look for your views.
Which has happened with developing it.
Can I just say one more thing, and I'm going to go. It's just I think it may be that the wording's not great here, but I'm pretty sure
the wording isn't good actually.
So I suppose to Councillor Frenchman and the parish councils on this and being part of it. I'll just say that again. It's not about the rules. It's about how you engage with the rules. It's not about everyone, the document is fine, it's about how you can really have your say and be as much a part of the process.
But how does that happen? That's the point, because there's two things. There's a document which tells you the process, and there's the reality of the conversations. And how can you possibly legislate for the conversations unless you have a strict procedure?
The Council, for instance, says that there is ready to pass them before, so they know where that is, but there's a phone call or a presentation or a discussion with the party.
Let's be clear about this. What is the...
Now, the other side of it is, just so you know, obviously this has sort of gone out to a parish council as a consultation document, so the people that have participated in it are expecting to at least sort of have their words.
Yeah, but it's not a consultation.
So did that.
It's not strictly.
That went out.
I agree with you, Maria. Absolutely, and you're saying that you know.
It was meant to be an idiot's guide to planning. But we didn't use that wording.
No.
But that was my.
I'm understanding it, and I'm not saying that's.
Let's go back to this, right? Let's go back to this. Okay, thank you. Objectively, does that fulfil the objective of being a piece of communication which leads them through the process, is a clear signposting, or doesn't it? Does it or doesn't it? It's that simple. It's objective. Does it do the job? Is it effective or not? That's all we need to know. Councillor Bridger, I mean, you can argue this outside and we'll scrap this and we'll just go.
I'm agreeing with Maria that there needs to be some kind of review. And that review is timeline involvement at what stages, because that is not explicit within text. That, to me, do you agree or not?
Let's say we don't have any problem with updating it when it comes to it. I will expect an update probably later on this year anyway.
Well, it's the fact that it's a live document online. We did a paper version to launch it at the Parish and Town Council's conference. Had really good feedback from that from both the local members, our own members and the parishes. I know I've only had positive responses, and interestingly, none of the parishes have said, you're missing this or you're missing that. I've got one of the points later, I think, I can cover better, which is in the response, but I forget which recommendation it is now. But yeah, this is a live dynamic document. It's going to be reviewed. That was the whole purpose.
What about this? Clarification to all parties within the... What is this document called again, Maria?
It's the...
Well, everyone's slightly told.
Yeah, it's a guide for parish and town council, so how to handle planning applications. It's not exactly run off the tongue.
How to handle planning applications. Right. Councillor Pritchard, what does this document need specifically, in your opinion? And we can reframe number 2 to put it in.
A guide for parish and town councils, your involvement at each stage of the planning process, something along those lines.
So is it the title that's the problem?
It doesn't exactly...
Is it the title or the content?
It's a timeline. It's a content as well. So there's not... I can't see a visible timeline that jumps out at me at what stage parish councils are actively sought, with the inference being that we want your views rather than you will fit into the process.
Got it, okay. I think, right.
Yes.
Let's come back a step. Wendy, sorry to kill you on your last minute. Number 1, could you say basically we'll take that recommendation as is. Number 2, can we amend it so that we basically say this document be reviewed in order to clarify the stages of the S106 timeline process? What's the word I'm looking for?
Process, I suppose.
Process. Can we have that as an amendment? Job done. Yeah, perfect.
Could you say that now?
Yeah.
This document to be reviewed.
Review that document, so give it the specific name we're referring to.
Be reviewed
to incorporate, reviewed and updated the timeline for the S106 process. Job done. That's it.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Happy.
So you basically said we've got a piece of information. That's done. Let's go on to the third one. Thank you. Agreed?
Agreed.
Number 3, definitely not.
Right. Number 3, clauses in S106 involving parish should be run past them before sponsor. I think we've had a conversation about this. For a start, by the way, I didn't like the term, and I raised this before with Carrie from Council. I didn't like the term run past them. It's sounding very juvenile for such a technical legal process. Now, do we have views on this? I think we're hearing professional, if you like, from officers and portfolio audit. This is not a wise recommendation.
I'm persuaded by the arguments put forward by Tony Gillett and senior
in the document.
I'd be heavily against recommendation two.
Okay, Councillor Pritchard.
First of the council, Wesley first.
Councillor, is your reason for this?
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it's. I mean, if we're all trying to get the best for everybody, what is the problem with actually? Running past them is perhaps a bit of a duff line or consult.
So what would you use instead then?
Well, it's the forget the terminology. However you term it, the officer's response is going to be, "This is a really bad idea." You will limit with legal agreements. You only involve the parties you need to involve. We are up against it now, not just for major applications, but for all applications. Everything has got to be determined within tight timescales.
It's because of the implications of the timeline.
If we start missing our deadlines for getting applications done within statutory timelines or within extensions of time with applicants, and we start dropping below the very high levels and it's increasing, this is the stuff I tell you about every committee. If we start missing those deadlines, and we will miss those deadlines because we get a decision at the planning committee or as officers, but we don't actually issue a decision, because you don't issue a decision until you've got a 106 signed up. We start adding extra complications into that. You're basically, it would be very poor practice to involve any additional parties in drafting 106s, because you're adding extra time, and what's the point of consulting somebody if you're going to, if they do have comments to make, you've got to go back to all the other people. You don't consult people unless you're going to do something about what they say, and you don't involve extra people in legal agreements unless you have to. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You'll add time and complexity, and we'll end up missing deadlines. So,
is there also an issue here because of their legal status as consultees as well?
Well, they're a third party.
They're a third party.
If they are actually an interested party, because there is an absolute obligation on them, and they're going to be, but that's very rare. I mean, we're dealing with school stuff, and county council isn't even a signatory. We're often the only signatories, in order to keep this as tight as you can, is often DDC and the applicant are the only signatories.
I think it's. I think therein lies the crux of the issue with parish councils. I think the fact that it's like that's what we've agreed and that's it. If you see what I'm.
But the heads of terms of a 106 for all majors is on the planning report that goes to committee. It's all there.
But it's already.
Members decide that. We don't finish the 106.
Okay,
so members decide the heads of terms, but we actually have to scrape down and do the detail. I have some discretion in rare circumstances to agree to minor changes, but that doesn't happen very often at all. And when I do that, it's always in discussion with you. I mean, how many times have we had conversations about it's a rare thing?
Is it once or is it twice? Yes. No, it's twice.
On the basis it's not a legal agreement until it's signed off. An early doors discussion before it actually gets to planning wouldn't hurt it, would it?
Clauses in the 106 involving parish and town councils. I mean,
do you see what I'm saying? I mean, if we were to like, if you take on number one, you've had information up front. Okay, what we want is a bus stop and an extension to our community centre. That's what we want. That goes into your discussion. Otherwise, there's no point. Otherwise, it's too late to put it into the discussion.
And that's their
issue.
Loads of things get chucked into the mix, but officers will recommend to members of committee. The final heads of terms will be what's reasonable to include. Because we can't always include everything on the wish list because it's not reasonable to do so, because there's not.
No, it's got to make the test.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what you're saying there is that there is no real opportunity at the first instance to actually get anything on that list.
Well, there is. They do that during the consultation period, right up to the point when the decision is made. When that committee agenda goes out, if there's stuff missing that they've asked for and they're determined, there's absolutely nothing to stop the parish raising it, and they do. Like the planning committee, they'll be their members. We have the discussions. Officers can come back and say that wasn't included because it doesn't meet the test and whatever else. That goes through a legitimate democratic process. What we can't do is get, you're not going to have additional conversations about the actual detail. We don't involve our own members in the detailed wording of the 6 agreements.
I think
for
the
planning.
serious
So why would we do that with parishes?
Yeah, I'm going to break in as chair. Basically, I think some of the concern is here. I sometimes sense that there is a feeling, objectively or subjectively, there is a resistance by officers to basically really want to participate in this process actively and engage. But what I've actually seen from the recommendation here back is that, that's almost densely written, so it's obfuscation. But actually what I'm hearing from you here actually is very practical reasons and technical reasons why this would be problematic.
Yeah.
And when I'm revisiting the actual recommendation, I think I raised forecasts. I actually think this goes back to our original, when you were on the committee member as well. It's all about being smart, these specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in time. I've always said these are recommendations one push forward. I don't think that meets that test because it's a clumsy written recommendation for a start. We've had very sound reasons there not to do it. So I'm going to go back to Councillor Bridge, and say, you've heard some further information there. What do you think about this particular item? You've heard very strong reasons to take it out, and you've heard Councillor Wesley's argument to consider it.
Just provide a summary. So, items are identified, the parish and discussed early on anyway, or the discussion goes on between DDC and...
typically it's going to come through at any stage during while the approach has been determined, but you would expect parishes to initially make their comments at the consultation stage, right at the beginning, or even at pre-act stage. The discussions can start whenever.
And then how is the decision made about the prioritisation of what the parish wants and what the DDC can offer?
Well, it'll all go, basically anything that is required to mitigate the impact of the development ends up on the list. Forget affordability, everything ends up on the list if it's required to mitigate the impact of the development. The only thing that ever gets left off, the one thing that falls down, is affordable housing. If everything else that's required to mitigate the impact of the development ends up on there. But affordable housing, when they go down the begins with V. It's been a very long day.
Well, they want to alter the position.
Yeah, we
come back for a variation term.
Yes, variation.
It's not the word I'm looking for.
It's
It's
not the word, but
viability. They'll say it's not viable.
Viability is variation. That's right.
So they argue it down. But everything else, if that school is required, it's required. If that impacts, if that new development means a new path has got to go from A to B, that's got to go in fact.
For me, it is the affordable housing figures, and getting information from the SMT, I think it was Tony, somebody forwarded it to me, of all developments over a certain amount of houses. The targets of this time and time again. So how would the parish impact on that anyway, or could they?
Honestly, more often than not, the parish don't give monkeys about affordable housing. Especially in rural areas, most parishes would prefer, because we've got very high percentages in the rural area, and actually they're quite happy, the locals, to have less, if we're being brutally honest. We've got these aspirational targets because we know that much affordable is required, 2/3 social, 1/3.
We've only seen it a couple of times, though, variations, haven't we? But
so they're quite happy usually for it to be lower.
Good, okay, well we've got a long list to get through. We haven't got time. 15 minutes ago.
Just last thing to say, anything that extends the time of a planning application being given permission makes it more difficult for us.
And you're raising an expectation. If you're going to talk to them about a clause, that gives the impression that they can change it, and actually, if they can't, they can't. It's the heads of terms are determined on that planning, that reports planning committee, and that's where the...
Thank you, Maria. And I think, Councillor Johnny, we've got this kind of notion of running past them. It's a limited time. I mean, if I was to be very pure, unless we reword it and say, take it on the way it's written. What do you want to do? Can I step in as a chair actually and say, look, I think you've heard it. You can have a say. Obviously, that's your role. But actually, I'm minded anyway as the chair to go with the kick it out one.
To kick it out. Kick it out.
Just to kick that one out. Because
so what, regardless of what I say, but then this.
Well, no, because basically I want to have your views, but the point is, it's still a democratic one. I've heard the views myself, and there's 3 of us. So But I'd still like to know what you would like to, for the record, basically, what you would like to do with it. Because actually, if you say, well, actually, there's a really strong component, reason ever, can we tweak the wording? But I need you to make a decision.
Don't like the wording.
Yeah.
It's not smart. Limited time period isn't something. It needs to be stated.
Yeah. It can always reopen another committee, another panel, another time and relook at it. But we're not going to do him any justice if we get to the end of this meeting and don't finish it.
I just wish Councillor French was here, but okay.
He's not, that's his choice, not ours. Fine. Okay, we delete it, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Pritchard. I wanted to push us on because we still got 8 to get through. Okay, delete it. So, okay, so this is really important to keep a solid record of this. So 1 is in, 2 is edited, 3 is out. 4, clarification, what is reasonable to include in S106 civil grievance against test. Can you... I don't have a problem with that, do you? You don't have a problem with that one?
No, I mean, I can point to that.
Can have an email tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it depends. I mean, again, this is not really helpful.
Yeah, it's in there, there's loads of documents, but it probably...
Clarification. Basically, we're taking this as the document.
Well, you've got an indication here of what the likely answer's going to be, so yeah, that's...
Okay.
I'm not going to die in a ditch on that one.
That's good. No die in the ditch for Maria. Council's problem get out tomorrow. We're happy. We wanted... Our preference is to take them rather than not take them. 4 in. Thank you. Number 5. The Daventry Constitution. Now, by this I think it means the Daventry District Council Constitution. So again, clumsy wording's not helping him out here. So if we do edit, we'll edit it, but let's take it on block. Should reflect any changes above and also the positive stance DDC takes over public open spaces. Now, I thought this was a dangerous conflation because he'd thrown a new topic in here at this point, whereas in fact he should have put the Daventry Constitution to reflect changes at the very end. But let's take it as read, as written. Any comments on this one?
I mean, I would just say, our document, the council's approved supplementary planning document, says, as far as the local planning authority is concerned, it doesn't matter who provides the public open space or whatever it may be, as long as it's provided. So actually, if somebody owns that land, the landowner's building on those properties, as long as they provide the park or whatever else, we cannot require them to hand it over to the parish council. Much as Barry and the councillors might like that to be the case, and often proactive parishes are encouraging that. Actually, you know, a lot of the new developers have got management arrangements, or people moving onto an estate pay so many £100 a year to look after the local area. That's becoming increasingly the case. So I think the fundamental point on this one is we cannot force anybody who owns a piece of land to then hand over responsibility for the public open space to a parish if they don't want to.
Maria, his point here was takes a positive stance. We can still take a positive stance rather than a
and that is what's in the SPD.
In the recommendation, is there?
So no, there's no notion of obligation. No, there's no notion.
There are parishes that don't want it as well.
No. And
we've been offered 3 pieces of land in our own village by developers, all of them by
town council that never takes them.
1 by county council and 2 by developers, and we've refused to take them on, and they're all open spaces.
That's interesting. Okay, so what are the committee members?
Sometimes the little tiny ones on housing estates are looked after by the developer for at least the first 5-10 years, and then the bigger ones that are, you know, the sort of bonus ones that are taken on by the parish.
This is a clarification.
Let's not have a fragmentation. Let's go back to Councillor Adam.
My question would be whether the Constitution is the correct vehicle.
It wouldn't be the Constitution, it would be the SPD.
Yes, that needs to be reworded then to reflect the positive stance.
Yes, it's a clumsy piece. Well, actually, and also the fact that he references above and then brings in a completely new item. The thing is, and I'll stress this to anybody writing these reports, and I have done many times, please make sure it's as clear as possible before it comes in. I do my best to kind of have conversations, but I'm as time constraints everybody. So, okay, that would need changing, but actually, it's the wrong document anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
But let's just take the one part of it. So I'm minded to take that one out, but let's leave the middle bit, which is DDC takes a positive stance in relation to open space. Is there something there to retain on this particular?
Which we do, but ultimately, somebody owns that land, it's up to them what they then do. Planning, that as a local planning authority, the only thing we can insist on is that, you know, that community benefit is provided. We can't insist how it's provided.
Right, but that was the point. We're being positive, but we can't force the issue.
Yeah.
But is it documented anywhere that we do take a positive stance? Is it in that document?
It's in the SPD. It's in the supplementary planning document. I was looking at them earlier. It's probably on.
Right. So if it's already there, do we need it here? We don't need it here. We're just asking him to do something. Almost as though we're dim-witted because we're asking him to do something that's already there. That's my concern.
It can't go into the Constitution anyway.
It can't go into the Constitution anyway. It's the wrong place for it. I'll be mind to remove it.
I can't see an argument to keep it, unfortunately.
It can't be kept, but the premise behind it is, I mean, we've got should ideally offer, so there's some agreement there that
well, that's not what the supplementary planning document is what was agreed by council, and that's not what it says. And as a local planning authority, what we're saying to you as officers, we can't,
because of development.
Well, some developers have fell out with the parish council from years before, and they decide, Sodom and we're just going to, and we can't do anything about it. I mean, this is what happens in real life.
Because they've got a whole world out there that they're operating.
Yeah. Sometimes parishes, I mean, we've got a formula. If the developer can do it for less than the formula that the parish would be asking for, then they'll charge that directly to their new residents instead. I mean, there's commercial and all sorts of other factors to take into account. We can only oblige them to meet the condition or the obligation.
You can see that. I think his sentiment is just the encouragement to maybe liaise and discuss and pass over. I think that's what it's trying to say.
Okay, let's take this. Is there a better, if you want to keep this in any sense, part of it, is there a better way to reword it? Now, we've got to do it. Is there a way to reword it now? I know it's late, we've got to think creatively or not at all. Still got to get through the end of it, otherwise just roll on and I don't want to do that. Let's do ourselves all a favour and get it finished. So, should we keep it? No, if we can reword it. Down to you, Councillor Pritchard. Any creative?
So it can't be written along the lines of if a developer agrees, then
it's already
it should be offered.
That's already what the SPD says. But in practice, we can,
So the SPD already codifies that can be our stance, and actually in practice this is how it comes alive. So there it is. Can you show us where it is, please?
I hope so.
You won't do
Open
that.
space, page 15. Well, I know what I'm doing there for a minute, didn't I?
There's a bit there for your side.
And there is a whole maze of these things, and you can understand why parishes are going to go.
Of course you can. There's a lot of documents to get through. There's no way it's...
But we do put them in the direction, so... And we've got, obviously, what our SPD says has got to fit in with the National Planning Policy Framework, so there's the link to that there. Provision of adequate facilities for formal sports, recreation, blah, blah, blah. Current provision and standards. Oh, this is all the technical mumbo-jumbo stuff. And obviously this stuff's in there to make it clear of what the standards are. So you might get some developments that actually they don't trigger the requirement for any additional areas of play, laps and leaps and stuff. Contributions. So once you go over the threshold, that's when you will get contributions from developers. No, it must be on another document then. This is written as per these are technical documents.
Actually, Maria, on account of the fact that I know you're scanning it's late, but it's not easily found.
I would put sorry, Mary.
Please, yes, sorry.
I would possibly rewrite this to say that DDC clarifies the positive stance that it takes over public open spaces in relation to potential parish
in SPD.
In SPD.
Good. Maria, we're going to take that. Happy with that, Councillor Bishop? That can probably work with you. Can you take it from the top, Councillor Frank?
Well done. DDC clarifies the positive stance it takes, and then, as it's written,
positive. There we are.
Oh, hang on. No, keep catching that in case if Maria finds it, we'll take it back out.
Positive stance
it takes, and then if you proceed to the end within the SPD at the end.
SPD, yeah. Can we just give it that full name and then SPD in brackets?
Positive stance DDC takes over public open space.
I don't think you need all that. Just take it. I think you don't need that bit, do you? Just keep it as the positive stance. Oh no, sorry, you do need all of it. Yeah. Sorry. Otherwise, it's not entirely true.
I'm confused then. DDC clarifies positive stance it takes.
Yep. Over public open spaces.
Yeah.
In relation to potential parish management.
Yes.
So as it has it in there. I'm sorry to confuse. Thank you. So Maria, we'll take it like that, and it might be an update for the document accordingly. But that's our recommendation anyway. Okay, good. Thank you. It's nothing like a good refresh of the document.
Yeah, I'll have to get some feedback from Richard and Steve Ellis will know exactly what bits in there.
Yeah, you may, if you locate it afterwards, you may say, look, it's in there, it's fine, it's codified. But what our position is, as a recommendation is, we'd like it codified in there. We understand what the constraints are, etc. Good, thank you everybody. So moving on to number 6, we're nearly halfway through. I'm going to have to call time in 5 minutes of which now, but we'll only focus on this for the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes. We'll get this wrapped up. Parishes to be encouraged to think about precepting and planning contingencies for dealing with MPAs.
By whom? Would be my question. Who is going to do that?
Who's going to encourage
them? Is it the role of the local planning authority to tell independent bodies what to do? Which was my point when we had the discussion actually.
So by definition, aren't we... Can we just deconstruct it a little bit? So you're saying by who? That's a good point. So because actually it's not saying parishes be encouraged by DDC.
I'm saying, actually by saying that, if I'm being really blunt, I'm saying that's not the role of the planning officer.
Not the role of
not the role of a planning officer. That's not part of
actually,
their job.
You can be very technical about this. It probably isn't the role of a planning officer if it's not in their job description, right? Simply put. But actually, what you're saying is parishes should be encouraged, because nobody should encourage them, because basically they need to have enough skill, competence and knowledge to recognise what their activities are in this area. If you take the town council,
do we really want to be putting something out that says we're going to tell parishes what to do? We have to respect that they are independent elected bodies who make their own decisions. So that is the point of that response, really.
Because this kind of feels like a bit of a, what's the word, I hate this term, toolbox, but it's that kind of thing, isn't it? So basically what you need to do as a parish council in order to be effective.
You've got stuff in the seal guidance, for example, that you can do it.
Can actually, before you I'm going to just give you a quick, and then I'm going to go back to my members. I'm going to call for an extension. Agreed. Yeah, because we like midnight meetings, so for Wendy's last meeting. So happy to carry on. Great. We'll focus only on this, and we'll roll for the rest of the calendar.
I mean, to me, I think it's quite good. I think it's quite a good sentiment, because it is the engagement thing. Again, it goes back to your document, doesn't it? Your planning document that you showed us earlier. I mean, you can, like when Colin just said, it's like a toolbox type thing. Parishes.
You can say you may wish to, but do we really want to encourage
That's
that?
what I'm saying. It's just little reminders that look better on the
It's back to signposting, I think, kind of things to think of, best practice, etc. But again, it's parish council guidance, really, actually. Let's take I'm going to whistle through this one. Quick comment from Councillor Brown.
I mean, in my experience thus far, parish councils will think about precepting anyway. But I'm a little confused, because in the report itself under 4.4 it actually says that I assume it's meant to be DDC. Unfortunately, as DDC has to show an even hand, it is unable to help with this in either a financial or practical way.
Of course, there's an internal contradiction in the report anyway.
Again, in my experience, parish councils as independent bodies are they're quite willing to make their own decisions. They don't always want DDC's influence or encouragement, advice, whatever else. And I think there's a danger that we seem to be nannying them.
Over-paternalistic. Councillor Osborne.
As the chair of a parish council, if the district council told me to put my parish council to put money away for anything in the future, I'd start to think, well, are they going to look after us properly then? Aren't they going to spend the money and do it themselves? They want us to double rate and us to.
You can add a line in. The answer is simply add a line in into the parish guidance. That's fine. But if you think people are actually going to be proactively saying, oh, you've got a major one coming in your area, you should think about this. I think it's...
Let's take Maria's comment actually, because it's helpful. It meets us halfway on this. Councillor, let's quick comment from Councillor and then
May I propose an edit just to wrap this up?
Yeah.
The guide that we referred to earlier, I'm sorry, I've put on the title, should be amended to encourage parishes to think about, and then change the rest of the wording.
Perfect.
Also advising they're able to, as opposed
advising they can think about.
This is something you could do.
This is great now. We're down to minor editorial tweaks of the supporting document. Let's say it's in the top.
So the rest then.
No, we've got to work through it, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just, I wish you could do this all behind closed doors. It'd be much quicker, but that's the role of Scrutiny Committee. Good public open conversation. Everybody's welcome. So, number 6. Councillor Brown, can you take it from the top, please?
I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name of the document, planning guide that we...
The name of the document referred to in item number 2.
We'll have a line to it.
Be updated to advise parishes that they may wish to think about precepting.
To advise parishes.
They may wish to think about precepting and planning contingencies within their participant.
That's it.
Precepting.
Simple as that. Done. And Maria can give you the name of the document in full. Thank you. Number 7, you obviously happy with that. Councillor Pritchard, you're happy with that because it reflects the spirit. Number 7, DDC could provide paid for training in parishes. Paid for training for parishes, to apologise, utilising in-house experience to provide an additional revenue stream. So there's kind of 2 things there. Kind of recognise there's a resource cost, but it's about a revenue stream. I think actually reading back this...
Yeah, said yes on that one.
This was you open to suggestion.
If there was demand,
Great stuff. Okay, so it's and again, it's could provide, could consider. Councillor Pritchard, happy?
Yeah.
Councillor Brown, happy? Great. Number 7, tick, done, as is, kept. By the way, you do know Councillor Frenchman's going to ask me for a note about this straight away, so it's going to be...
he's on the holiday, don't worry.
I'm just going to say you're going to have to see when it comes out, but it's pretty true to the spirit, apart from a couple of amends, but listen to the recording. Number 8, reinforcement of the importance of parish responses, even late reps, and the benefits of speaking at committee.
That's agreed. It's I said I'll consider reinforcing that.
Perfect, thank you.
In the guidance, so
that was almost a dream, that one. Number 9, publication of a glossary. You're a lot of terms, and you were happy with this one too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
Okay, that's very good. And number 10, case officers' working days are added to the notification letters. Now, I saw this one as well, and I know your response was like, no, this is impractical. I'm minded to agree that people have different working patterns, people come and go. Why cause extra confusion in administration? That's my personal views on it. As a chair, comments from members? Does it help us basically?
Possibly for contact details.
Yeah. Contact details are on all the communications anyway, on everyone's incoming.
Yeah, this is not even about, this is about working days.
I wouldn't want to set apart, I've got a team of 80, a quarter of which work in development control, and I wouldn't want them to have some extra.
I guess you can kind of assume it's core hours, hopefully you get them that they're plugged, could be a call back. It could be out anywhere anyway,
They spend half their time on site, don't they? So
if there's an issue here with people not getting back to people, then we have to deal with that accordingly. But just working days, I might be off 2 weeks.
Although I said I'd sort of happily sort of accept all of these, on my discussions with the parishes, this wasn't one that came actually.
Okay.
Their perception was that they were reasonably happy with their communication with officers. Actually,
it's not something. It's not something I have. It's not a very common cause of complaint.
It was one of the compliments, and I don't think it is. Possibly, I don't know, maybe some sort of generic contact point, just in case somebody doesn't get that. So I don't know, but that's another thing.
It strikes me we're in a 24-hour society. You might send somebody an email at 4 o'clock in the morning. You might get an email back at 10 o'clock.
You're getting out of office.
You're getting out of office.
Because the office instruction is you have to set that up. So anyone who's part-time should be using that anyway.
Not needed. Not required. That's what you mean.
Yeah, look, great point. It's just that initial point of contact. How many numbers can they ring? Is there one number and someone picks up the telephone? Is it?
Yeah, there's obviously the switchboard gets put through, but as soon as you get a letter You'll have the name of the case officer and direct dial numbers. Which you're contacted to get in an email.
And also, when the phone rings, nobody answers it, another officer will pick up the phone.
That's what I mean, so the work is allocated if they're away for a day or two?
Sometimes in certain officers who spend a lot of time out will use active voicemail. It's not widely used voicemail, but it is for those that are majority out.
Again, I concur with Councillor Wesley. There isn't a problem communication.
Okay, thank you. We'll keep that one. We'll take that one out. Superfluous. Thank you. And finally, number 11. So you say that I'm good So, I mean, fundamentally, I think here as a chair, I disagree with the concept of site visit policies. I think he's let himself down a little bit in that comment. I think it needs to be very precise about the language here. We're referring to a policy or what have you, procedure. Having said that, let's take a slightly wider view. There is some kind of fundamental concern the authors have. Councillor Wesley, if you can quickly speak to this, and we'll have a discussion and get feedback.
Again, this wasn't something that came up with me, but in my discussions really. But what I will say is, I think you can sort of see what is driving that, and I understand all of the. I mean, I've been on site visits. I've been on site visits before. They do turn into a bit of a melee. I mean, I don't know whether this. I think it's perhaps a bit late for this one on this document, but my thought process would be like on a major planning application that parishes could maybe have a visit with the officer to actually look at the physical elements, because we all know on planning sometimes it's like people disagree about measurements, distances, angles and things like that. But I don't think that's for the. I think it's gone past that, because I think otherwise I'm trying to add something in that Councillor Frenchman hasn't put in.
That's interesting as well, actually, because these really should be based on some kind of evidence or at least observation. I didn't get that feedback.
It could be that other people did. If you
other respondents who
I think it's just an old bugbear that's come back, I'll be honest. This has come up now in several forms.
It could be, and I'll probably say, Councillor Frenchman, if he hears Potter, I don't fully think this is a purely objective point. I think there are interjections.
I mean, just an example, I did have quite a lengthy discussion with Maria about the development of the hotel, because one of the guys was insisting that the plans were ready, and I think perhaps sometimes on those it turned out that they actually weren't quite right, didn't it, in the end?
Which one was that?
Was that the Abercorn?
Yeah, at the hotel, the development of the hotel.
Warwick
Street. Yeah, the Warwick Street. And do you remember, there was an extension in the garden that wasn't reflected on the map. And in the end it turned out...
No,
I was saying in the end it turned out that it was wrong, but it was actually wrong on the map, and everyone insisted that it was right on the map.
That's the point about bringing them out.
Well, we looked at the photographs and we looked at Google Earth, I recall. And
I'm just saying, you can see why people do have this.
As well. Let's thank you very much for those comments. Members.
That's the relevant bit of the Constitution anyway.
Thank you.
It's an appendix. So that has, the process for considering that would be this time of year when the monitoring officer, I've raised this with the monitoring officer, and he is not recommending any change to this.
Could I say, with my hat on, that out of all the recommendations, I consider that to be the actual worst one that would go through.
Mine is started. Yeah. Sorry, was a contention between parties on the site, or why is that?
Because I've lived 20 years through site visits, and when they were site visit now, you probably get one in about 3 months.
Yeah,
site visits 20 years ago, we probably had a whole day doing them. They were controversial. Terrible arguments took place. Things happened on site that shouldn't have happened.
Shenanigans between different parties.
That shouldn't have happened on site.
Which parties? Exactly.
Well, yeah, parishes signing up with
the opposition,
fighting going on. Not physical fighting, but arguing.
I went to a gun club once, a place that manufactured guns in Malton, and I've never seen so many placards with guns kill because I was a bit flippant and saying guns don't kill, it's people using them do. But it was intimidation all the way. It's easy to intimidate members of the planning committee, it's easy to get arguments involved, and it doesn't do any good to people.
I suppose the point is this one actually, in a very good, positive, objective mode, you'd open it up, complete transparency, all come along, have a look around, and all the rest of it. But the reality of the human condition is it doesn't work like that.
But if what's suggested, if we make that change, only planning committee members who attended a site visit could then vote on the application later, because a site visit is part of the committee process. So actually, in practical terms, I don't think that's the intention, but that is what we would have to do.
Right, okay. So I think there are two options here. Can we amend it or throw it out?
I would throw it out, Chairman. I would ask respectfully that you throw it out.
Thank you. What to Councillor Brown? Some clarification.
Yeah, I mean, from the recommendation as is written on page 11, it seems that, extremely vague. There's no direction.
No.
For the next stage on, to indicate where greater flexibility may be required. Doesn't identify what the best practice from around the country may look like.
It's simply a review of practices to enable flexibility, which isn't giving information.
No, it's been some years. I mean, since I've been involved in planning, which is nearly 6 years, the site visit protocol has been broadly the same, and I bet there's only been a dozen site visits in 6 years.
We don't do many, do we?
Don't do many now because we have to have a planning reason for it, purely and simply because of the previous issues. So it was, it's about bringing it all in line. So it was a controlled.
I don't fully understand the policy or the recommendation, so I can only listen to the planning chairman and the officer involved and be swayed by their strong arguments.
And actually, that's the point, Councillor Brown. We're here in open forum to listen to the views.
And any parish council can go and arrange to meet an applicant. Any member of committee can go and have a look at a site. But what we don't have is a formal site visit.
And that's the point, actually, isn't it? Because it is about for the benefits of enriching the parish council's abilities, probably the wrong word, enriching. Basically, they can arrange one themselves with the developer.
Yeah, that's what my understanding.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry I can't hear when people are speaking. Also, site visits have been used in the past, and quite a bit, purely as we ain't going to get planning permission, or we're not going to stop this planning permission, we'll have a site visit and see if we can intimidate a few people that way. And I'm afraid that's another point of why we don't want them either.
It had to be carefully chaired, didn't it? That one we did.
That doesn't work either.
Should we, you've heard that, I think, Councillor Pritchard, would you be happy to be, particularly given Councillor Brown's, there's no direction, it doesn't really necessarily, it's focused on us, but it doesn't necessarily bring the benefit to the parish, which is the main focus of the document. I would agree that we should remove this one. What do you think? Unless it can be sensibly reworded.
No, as long as the parish councillors have an opportunity to meet applicants, visit the site independently. I'm not sure there's any that actually meets in planning committee, and I don't think actually it's appropriate in the middle of the field.
No, it's a quasi-judicial process that doesn't want to turn into a riot, which is always the risk.
And it's abuse, so I'm sorry, I agree.
Oh, well, in that case,
Can I thank you for saying that? That's a good sensible comment you've made. Not suggesting that you...
Stop there! I think we had a consensus break at the end of the meeting. Well, in actual fact, I'm very pleased we went through that process, very hard work.
Yeah, I'm glad we did.
Councillor Frenchman's obviously absent, but if he comes back and says, you as the chair didn't do that properly, I'd like to move for a proper, open, transparent process to discuss it.
We'll take him on a site visit.
Okay, and we've done it justice, it's been through, it's not the best crafted document, we've had conversations, he had inputs from officers. We could have gone away in a quiet room and bashed it through, but I'd like to do it in the full view of the members and officers. What I'd like to do is thank everybody for that. Can I have a quick tally on that, please, Wendy? Did you count how many we agreed, how many what was the status? Then we'll move on to the end.
As once agreed.
Can you just give us a sum of overall? Or maybe you haven't done it that way?
No, I haven't done it.
Okay, let's just write a summary down. So
I've got agreed number 1, amended number 2.
Wait a minute. Agreed number 1.
Yeah, amended number 2. Deleted number 3. Agreed number 4 with a slight amendment in there.
What was number 4? Sorry?
Number 4.
Amended.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it wasn't. The amendment I made was we've got DDC and SPD, and then we've got 5 and 4.
Oh, but it's still amended, nonetheless. Yeah.
5 was amended.
Nearly finished.
6 was amended. 7 was agreed. 8 was agreed. 9 was agreed. 10 was deleted, and 11 was deleted.
I'm glad that reflects what I wrote down as well.
Do we agree?
Perfect, good. So there we are, a positive outcome, a proper scrutiny, and I think I'll share. I do not enjoy planning interface scrutiny assignments.
Can I say,
particularly given the nature and the status of it?
that I would have rather have had the discussion that we had in this forum than have the same one at council and the same thing at
The report to strategy group will say, no,
it
agree,
was done
that's
properly.
different.
I think it was scrutinised properly.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what I'd like to say now, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your input. Maria, just got to stay a couple more minutes. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with the members, given the time and the fact we're all tired and the fact that everybody else is disappearing, can we defer all of the rest of the items to the next meeting? It should be easy to sweep up because we've got the again, another piece of impressive work from Miss Councillor Pritchard. That can come back as the final one. It's in the papers anyway, so people can read it and comment to you afterwards. We've got through a hefty piece of work which we've finally got off the agenda, and there's a little piece of work for me, interims, quite simple to bring to the attention, but it's in the document. And then finally we've got all the other agenda items, but we'll simply roll on to the next one. Be happy to do that. Agreed.
Yeah, happy.
Very good. We've got the substantive piece of work, which was the main thing, and should we close the meeting there?
Tony, you've been good, you briefed me and all the other stuff. I've got my notes and everything.
Well, the thing is actually that what we've had in the last couple of meetings, Maria, because when Councillor Long was here on the committee, he recommended that we have a look at 1-year reviews. So pretty much since about December we've been heavily congested with those on the agenda. And we probably do give ourselves a little bit too much work, and with this particular one, because of the way we operate, we do like to do it obviously transparently and publicly, but obviously that was a bit of a beast to get through, and my personal ambition for this thing was to at least get through that with as much consensus as we could, even if we had to defer over items. I don't like to do it, but that was the best way. Anyway, Wendy really needs to go to bed. I'm sure we're all in the rest. We need to get kicked out. Thank you very much, both. Thank you all. Let's close the meeting there. 9:35, good.